G'day and welcome to On The Esky, a sports podcast where we like to wrap up the week that was in sport, have a few scooey moys and talk some absolute dribble. The Ashes are here, boys. It feels like we've been waiting an eternity, but they are here. We also have India and New Zealand and Big Bash. So cricket fans, strap yourself in and feel the G's. NFL Week 14 preview, the pointy end of the college football season. Surprise, surprise, Alabama are number one. We had the week in soccer and the NBA. The Champions League group stage is done. No Barcelona for the first time in a long time. Plus a massive final round. We'll take a look back at Aldo and Font and preview the huge UFC 269 card, which will happen Saturday night in the US and Sunday, our time. And looking at back at the penultimate F1 race. We're looking forward to the last one. Please remember, we have timestamps. Skip the sports that you don't like. Listen to the ones that you do. And if you wouldn't mind chucking us a subscribe on the YouTubes or the Instagram, that would be much appreciated. I have the best research man in Australia, possibly the Southern Hemisphere. A young Jamie Vernon, if you will. Monkey Magic on my left. And
big shoes to fill. And
I have Sean here on my right. Boys, how was our week?
Very good, very good. Lots of sport as always.
A real sexy week in sport, wasn't it? A lot happened.
A lot happened. Yeah. Like we mentioned it last episode, the F1 race, the Ashes starting, NBA, NFL, like the lot. You run through the intro, like there's shitloads that happened during the week. So, of course, we'll get stuck in a moment. Monks, how about your week?
Yeah, crazy busy.
Bit of big news.
Yeah, big news. In lots of debt now. Bought my first house. Townhouse at that though.
Still counts.
Yeah.
That's
it's a building in the market. In the market. So yeah, smashed out a lot of the big furniture last weekend, and then just doing little trips back and forth. Trying to clear out the old place, settle in the new place. Already got plans for some stuff around the house, some landscaping, some stuff in the garage, home gym, all that sort of stuff. So
Reno boys.
That's it. Heading into summer holidays, should have heaps to do.
Welcome to the club. It does suck when you do open your bank account for the first time and it says minus X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars, but at least it's going in the right direction.
That's it.
That's a positive. As we like to do, we like to shout a beer to reward someone who had outstanding performance during the week. Monkey, I may start with you, our new homeowner. Who would you like to shout a beer to this week?
Yep, yeah. So not only just this week, but for quite a long time running, in terms of performance, I am shouting a beer to Kimi Räikkönen. He is finishing up his F1 career this weekend with his last race at Abu Dhabi. So started his first race back in 2001, the Australian Grand Prix. First win was 2003. Last win was 2018 US Grand Prix. So it's been a while since he's had that top step on the podium.
But still 15-year span of winning races. Pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, really good. He also won the 2007 championship. Did have a little bit of a sabbatical in there. Went across to a bit of rally, a bit of NASCAR, tried his hand at a few other sports. But yeah, always came back to F1. A few stats, as I like to call out here and there.
The stats man.
Yep. So he is number one in total entries in F1 at 352 races. He also has the most starts at 348. In terms of most races with a single constructor, he's third overall at 151 and second for Ferrari behind the great Michael Schumacher.
So one of the most biggest longevity, I suppose, if you will.
Yeah, that's it.
Out of any racer ever.
And I was just checking it. Like, you got to remember as well, the guys he's now racing with, take George Russell, I think was 3 when Kimi started in F1.
3.
Yes. Like Lando and Alex, Albon, those guys, they're all in that, 3 to 4 year age. I think Mick Schumacher's probably was 2 at the time that Kimi started his F1 career. So
Lando Norris was born November 1999. Not even that. That old. Yeah. Huge props to a stellar long career. Known as the Iceman. Not much in terms of showing emotion off the off the field, off circuit, but definitely a lot of heart on the circuit.
Great interview, I hear.
Yes,
A lot of one-word answers.
Is he a bit of a Marshawn Lynch?
A little bit, yeah. He did mention during the week that his wife's probably going to be a little bit more emotional this weekend than he is. And we did see posts going around. So both him and Antonio Giovinazzi will be leaving Alpha at the end of this year, at the end of this race. On Giovinazzi's, on his delivery on his car, they gave him a nice little farewell. Can't remember what it was. It was in Italian. I might need to get you to translate that a little bit later.
It'll be wrong if I do that.
Fair enough.
Unless it's all swear words, and then we'll be sweet.
Nah, it was nice. I think it was sentimental. It was like nice goodbye. But then on Raikkonen's car, they've just put on, "Dear Kimi, we will stop annoying you."
Very, very good.
Yeah.
So congrats to Kimi on a stellar career. Enjoy the sauna. I imagine the Finn will probably be hitting up a few of those in his retirement. Sean, who will you be shouting a beer this week?
I've decided to shout a beer out to Tiger Woods. Yeah, so the main story, of course, is he's back doing the father-son sort of invitational. But the main thing, of course, being his first kind of golf tournament since his big injury, since his big car crash, falling asleep at the wheel was essentially and rolling multiple times, having lots of injuries to his legs and back. So impressive to see him even back out on a golf course, and just as impressive to see him with his young fella, who I think...
Pretty handy young Charlie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would play better golf than me.
Than all of us. And most people.
How old is he? Is he 10, 12?
12 years old.
12, yeah. He's pretty young, so I think it'd be awesome event for him to be playing with his old man. Big shout out to Tiger.
I'm pretty sure the last father-son comp that they played together, which was, it's father-sons of all ages. I think they came 4th or 5th or something, which is ridiculous.
I think, didn't an Australian pair win the last one last year?
Possibly. That's a stretch. Max maybe might have to chase that one up.
But I think
I feel like no. The point was an American, but chase that one up. The last father-son invitational.
But my point being is, it's like great to see Tiger healthy, getting back at it, and especially with his son there in tow as well. So big, good father-son moment there.
That crash was about 9-10 months ago, and
Start of the year.
I can't believe it was that long ago.
Well, and some of the
I can't believe it was that short ago. Like I was just like, I remember
it's flown past, you reckon?
Yeah,
it's
past,
flown
and it was
past
a
so
massive accident as well. Yeah.
And a lot of the chat was, is he going to be able to walk again? So to be out there, 9 months after or whatever it is, playing, it's really, really promising. And 2022 tour, possibly, not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Because Tigers now would be late 40s?
Yeah, because he won so much as a young bloke. I think he's only in his mid 40s, to be honest. I'll chase that one up. It's really, and it's good for golf fans, to see, arguably the GOAT being back. He is 45. Yeah. So accomplished a lot for a 45-year-old man.
Yeah. So if we're talking PNC Championship, Justin Thomas.
That's right.
And his dad won it last year.
So a current pro and his old man. So going the other way, which is nuts that a 12-year-old kid and the arguable GOAT came was it 4th?
So I'm assuming not Australians. I had that wrong.
Yeah, they're Americans.
Yeah.
That's you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, just confirming. That's why we got the fact checker on the end.
I'll tell you who is Australian. Samantha Kerr, and the person that I would like to shout a beer, a Hawks Underdog Lager. It's a good drop. Great Prime Minister, possibly the best one that we ever had. Underdogs, if you want to get around an underdog podcast, get at us. Be happy to drink a case of these each week. But
Good shout.
Yeah. Andrew Simon's actually beat me to it. Big Roy, he's known for his demolition of pitch invaders as well. The old hip and shoulder.
As well as beers.
And beers and fishing and being just a general larrikin.
Good lad.
Yeah, good lad, old Roy. If you haven't seen, Samantha Kerr, apart from in the last sort of fortnight, scoring a brace in the FA Cup, coming third in the women's Ballon d'Or, she hip and shouldered the fuck out of this fake Javo that ran onto the field, taking selfies. at one of the women's EPL games, and Sam Kerr has just sort of slid up there. She didn't come running in hot, and then has delivered a perfect hip and shoulder. No attempt to wrap up. Shout out to Michael Stevenson, mate of the Esky, a good mate of ours. Magic round. Peter Volanders this would be 5-6 weeks probably.
Oh, it's a flag in the NFL. Blindside block here.
Blindside block. That's a career ender in rugby union. You'd probably have to do community service if you did that in rugby union. You're not even allowed to have a head clash accidentally in that sport. Shout out to Samantha. That is an excellent shot.
I got to say, shout out to security in this as well, because he got up and then still makes off without even getting touched. So
English security, man. There's a security problem. There's a problem. MI6, they need to get together and they go, and this Javo cunt has infiltrated every sporting event that we've held this whole year, and we've had 2 streakers so far during the first 3 days of play in the Ashes, which we'll talk about in a second, who have absolutely gotten their blocks taken off by the Aussie Seckies. So don't know if that says something about the security blokes over there in England, but our Aussie security boys definitely can put a shot on. That is for sure.
That's it. Yeah,
they live for it, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they're just chomping at the bit. You know? They're like Chief Wiggum's dogs. You know, I've been teasing them, haven't fed them for ages, just ready to go.
That's it. Just waiting for the 5 minutes of fame. That was a Champions League match against Juventus.
It's a big game. Big game. She got a slice of cheese for it. Yellow card, which is a bit weird, I guess. But
don't understand that one.
Mate, she should have got a fucking promotion. All the security that was working there, she should have got all their wages as a bonus, really, because she did her job for them. But no, in all seriousness, she's having a stellar career. She's a legitimate superstar in female soccer, one of the best women's soccer players in the world, and obviously can deliver a good hip and shoulder. So mind yourself if you get on the wrong side of Samantha Kerr.
Well, I think the story is watch out for those Australians. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You enter that pitch, you fair game to the Australian.
At Andrew Simon.
Yeah, love us your old child.
At security guards. At any Aussie rugby league player that would murder most mere mortals.
Yeah. With that, I think we probably should talk about some Australians, and we're going to talk about the Ashes, boys, because the Ashes have officially started.
Let's fucking go. Yeah. We've been
kicked off on Wednesday.
Friday night is time of recording, so we are 3 days play in, and boys, we had the perfect start, didn't we? just before we get to that, the toss. A big toss. England win it. Joe Root decides to bat. It's one of the greenest decks that I've seen at the Gabba.
I think in Australia for a while.
Ever. In recent memory. We've got a bit of La Nina action happening down here. It's very wet.
And it did rain the end of day 1 too in Brisbane very heavily.
It's a Cardi B song down here at the moment, if you will. So an interesting decision there from the England skipper. Historically, you bat first. Gabba test, it's normally a road. Nasser Hussain famously chose to bowl and they got absolutely dicked. So maybe Root was a little bit scared of that, but it probably didn't play out too well.
Not to start with. Not to
Out
kick
of the
off.
first ball, though.
The first ball, this is one of those moments I think that you'll remember where you were. You know, it's like Harris getting Cook first ball. It's like Peter Siddle getting a hat trick on his birthday. It's one of those classic cricketing moments. The first ball of the Ashes. We haven't played Test cricket for 11 months. Every Australian man and some women are horny as fuck. And Mitch Stark comes in, puts one on leg stump. Yeah. Probably should have got the punt, but probably should have been dispatched by Roy Burns. He forgot where his leg stump was, and he goes, first ball. I heard it on the ABC radio at work. It was Jim Maxwell calling it, the great Jim Maxwell. Probably wasn't as fired up as James Brayshaw. His call was elite. Off your trot, Burns. There was everyone going mad there at the Triple M studio. An unbelievable way to start an Ashes. It has happened before, a wicket on the first ball of a series. I think you have to go back to the 1930s for it to have happened in the Ashes. So, historical moment there. Rory Burns going in the wrong side of history, and Mitchell Stark getting us off to an excellent start. David Milan went pretty soon after that. Not a bad nut from Hazelwood, but probably could have left it alone. Obviously, easier, said than done.
Yes.
Alex Carey gets his first catch as an Australian wicketkeeper.
And he's been very safe throughout so far.
Yeah,
which has been very impressive.
No problems so far. It's been back to the quicks. Hasn't been up too much for Lyon. Hasn't been really tested.
He hasn't had to fly around a bit.
Exactly. But
that'll come. But so far safe.
So far so good. And boys, the big one, Joe Root. His calendar year is officially the best calendar year from any Englishman ever. He's been absolutely killing it in these tests against India. And guess what? He went for a quacker. That ball from Hazelwood was absolute sex. It made him play. It was just fuller than a good length. A touch of sweet, not enough to miss the bat. Schnicked him up. Got the most dangerous batsman definitely on their team and possibly in the world at the moment. And England were in all sorts after that. We did see Ollie Pope and Josh Butler kind of steering the ship a little bit, getting them out of, it did look like it might have been an under 100 kind of day for the Poms.
Yeah, well, that's 70 odd from them. Really, was half their score. So.
Steered the ship.
Yeah.
And Ollie Pope, maybe a little bit surprising. Bairstow omitted for Ollie Pope. They're pretty much the same bloke. Maybe they picked Bairstow and Pope just went out and just said, "Yeah, fuck it, I'm Johnny Bairstow." Shout out to our Red Nut listeners. They're very similar in appearance. So they kind of contributed a little bit. Butler, he's like Richard Punt, isn't he? That it doesn't matter
give a fuck
what the game situation is. You're going out there, you're 5 for fuck all. You're probably shitting your pants. He goes, no. I've been one of the best white ball players for the last 2 years. I'm going to play my game. He was striking it well, playing some shots. He come undone, and Chris Wokes offered a little bit of resistance, but England 147, not much to write home about, although. It could have been worse. The classic, we've been talking about it all year with the speculation around Pat Cummins becoming captain. Can you have a fast bowler as a captain? Yes, you can. A, if they're hot as fuck. And B, if they bring themselves on to clean up the tail. so well done, Paddy.
Gets on the show.
He let Starkey and Hazelwood clean up, And look, I'm just having a bit of a laugh because Cummins did dismiss, I think, 2 of the top and middle order, but then he goes, tails in, I'll have that. Thanks, bang, bang, bang. See you later, lads. And then unfortunately, rain did wash out the rest of play on day one.
So as mentioned, England did finish for 147 on day one. No batting from the Australian side.
I'm glad we didn't have to go out there because if it had rained for 3 hours and we had to go out there and play in dim light with moisture in the air, 10 overs an hour or so, I'm glad that,
sounds very like English conditions to me.
Indeed.
So day 2 kicks off. I will come back to the Cummins point on his captaincy when we start talking about English second innings and where that's going. But perhaps how do we go on day 2 for the Australians? I think the good old Marcus Harris may be a little bit concerned.
Yeah, look, it's one innings. I maintain that they've picked him. I think they'll give him 2 or 3 tests. Unfortunately, there is.
What's the stat doing the rounds of the 223 openers? He is the 223rd worst average of the lot. So he's dead last for openers for Australia.
Oh no, I remember this one. It was there's 233 guys that have opened 20 innings. That's the minimum. He's 223.
Yep.
So he's off to a very, very poor start.
So I've got here, he has the lowest average for an opening batter in the last 139 years history of the Ashes.
That's Ashes history. That's Ashes history. Full caveat. But look, they see something in him, and I think, obviously pending this second innings, I still think they'll go with it. With him for at least Adelaide, and then moving forward, who knows? But the pressure on this bloke, dead set, his head noise would be not very good.
Well, the chat was always Harris and Head, their spots. We'll get to Head in a minute. I think his spot's probably okay. Harris, on the other hand, is the question mark. But with that Australia A versus England Lions game that's going on parallel to this.
Yeah, concurrently.
Yeah, no real batsmen from the Australian side standing up in that.
Yeah, I think
with the shout.
three or four of them made 30 odd, so no one banging down the door, and Usman didn't make any runs
only 12 for him.
either. Yeah, I maintain this is what I think Cricket Australia will do, possibly not my own opinion, but I think Harris will be given 2, if not 3 tests to prove himself. But yeah, a lot of pressure on the young man there. I tell you who did look solid, Marnus Labuschagne looked very good in his 74.
Well, and Harris's partner and David Warner as well.
A bloke makes 94. You can't just go, oh, it was lucky. But it was a little bit funny in that he got skittled by Ben Stokes quite early in the innings.
For 17, I think.
And it was a big no ball. A lot of controversy around the calling or lack of calling of the no balls, if you will. There were the 4 previous balls were all no balls. The umpire hadn't picked up on it. The third umpire hadn't picked up on it. And Stokes, it was like he kind of knew that he'd bowled, because he started celebrating a little bit, and then they were like, okay, checking the no ball, and you could see even before they showed it, the emotion kind of draining out of his face, and it was a big no-y.
Well, he of course was coming back into Test cricket himself, having not played in quite a while, probably lacking a bit of form and technique at this stage. Well, form in his technique.
Yeah, but a run up is not something that you should be fucking up. And as well, how much of this is on the umpire? If the umpire, the first ball of that over goes no ball, and he goes, oh fuck, I've got to take this back, 10 inches. Maybe it's. So
I think that's probably my point was, initially for his run-up, he's probably just got it slightly off by that inch. Needs to just tweak that a little bit. But like you say, if he gets that feedback from the umpire, then he probably does that, and then it's all good. But I think the umpies definitely rely a little bit more on the third umpire in this case.
The technology.
Yeah, they just leave it and just play on. If it's like grievous, I can tell that's a really bad no ball, I'll let it go. I'll adjudicate, but a lot of the smaller ones let that go, and if it does end up a wicket, it'll get picked up. It's not
every single one's meant to be reviewed by the third umpire. They reckon they missed 14 on the day. Wow. Who knows with England fighting back, but I don't think 14 runs will decide this test match, but it's something that goes down the wire that could change the outcome of a test match. And there's the whole chicken and the egg argument as well around, had the first ball been called a no ball,
would he have them balls?
Exactly right. Interesting to see Simon Torfel. They've been getting him on Channel 7, former umpired, I'd imagine, over 100 test matches. He was backing them up, saying it's hard to tell on the field if the foot's going over the line. He said the tech apparently was down.
Yeah. Well, supposedly there's no snicko in this test as well, and we'll get to that in Hazelwood in a minute. But
we can talk about it now. Apparently they couldn't get into fucking Queensland. They couldn't get that technology for snickos. There's no snicko.
Do you know why? It's because it had the COVID and couldn't cross the border.
The snicko had the COVID. Everything's got the COVID. The flag at the golf club's got the COVID.
Yeah. Well, I think for the umpire, no ball is one of those harder things to adjudicate, because you got to look down, but then also look up.
You got to look down, look up, look down, look up. But also, umpires have been doing that for 120 years. Yeah. I suppose then the counter argument is there hasn't been a front foot camera for 120 years. Yeah. Maybe this is just a part of Test cricket, and if you were to go back, there would be 15 and 20 no balls that were never called anyway.
And I think their preference is, of course, then to focus more on the LBWs and the actual snicking. Well, what's happening at the batter's end versus having a look at here. I'd rather focus on that, knowing, of course, like you said, the camera would pick it up if I have missed it.
And that's fine for the on-field umpire. What's the third umpire doing? He's on Pornhub. He's going,
especially in Australia.
Yeah, he's going, it's fucking hot as fuck up here in Brisbane.
I need a cold beverage.
Can I get another 4-4Xs? Also, the first Ashes test in a long, long time to not have neutral umpires, both umpires being Australian, again, due to the Coco.
Yeah,
you can bring a whole English team in, all their support staff.
Can't go to West Australia.
I think their partners are allowed, but getting 2 umpires in, no, we can't do that. But yeah, that is interesting. First time in a very, very long time to not have neutral umpires in the Ashes. Going back to David Warner, luck or no luck, he got away with it. It was very reminiscent as well. Do you remember back to the Boxing Day test in 17-18? He was on 99 and he absolutely popped one up of Tom Curran. He was so filthy with himself, and he'd done about half the walk, and on the big screen he goes, "You beauty," and he went back out there and he made 104. He only made 5 more runs, but he got that ton. So he's definitely had a bit of luck when it comes to no balls. He also had a bit of luck from Rory Burns, who's got himself off to a great first 2 days. He dropped him. Sit is a word that gets thrown around a lot. This was pretty close. Yeah. It was coming quick, but you get 2 hands to that. Chest height probably should be eating that up. Yeah. A little bit of conjecture around David Warner in the 90s. A bit of an odd shot. One could argue, I suppose, that the ball got onto him a little bit quicker than he'd expected, but kind of just popped it up to cover, and it did sort of spark a mini collapse. Warner goes, Cam Green. Mate, I feel your pain. I've done this one before. He's in his head. He hasn't played Test cricket for 11 months. He's going, leave well, put away the bad shit.
He's been good in the Shield. Like, he scored a whole bunch of runs. He's been great. Think of most of the batsmen, he's the one that's done the most red ball cricket and should have the form coming into this.
Mate, it's a part of cricket. Sometimes you leave and sometimes it takes you off peg. I have at a much lower level, mind you, probably facing 102 clicks, not 140 odd. I've had my off peg taken without playing a shot. Horrible way to get out. One of the worst feelings in cricket. So there was a little bit of concern, maybe are we going to have one of those classic Australian collapses?
Well, what were we? We were 200 at 2 at one point, and then we were 200 and something with 5 down. So it changed very, very quickly.
Well, Robinson took those wickets back to back. So we were 3 for 189 when Smudge went, and then we were 5 for 195 when Green went. So we lost 3 for 6. So a little bit of a collapse there. And as we all know, what happened didn't really fucking matter. Travis Head, a lot of talk about would he make the side. Had been sort of groomed
in that battle with
Khawaja and others. Pekowski being unavailable was interesting. Obviously, Head a middle order batsman, but could Khawaja open? Could Khawaja play 5?
Yep.
There was a lot of talk coming into it. Head got the job, and he came through with one of the best innings that I have seen in a very, very long time. He scored 100 in a session, which doesn't happen very often, but in that kind of circumstance, to come in when you've just lost 3 for 6 and everything's starting to go south after a good start, and to go out there and play freely. We spoke about Butler not giving a fuck about the situation. Travis Head doesn't give a fuck about the situation. It was awesome viewing there late yesterday afternoon. 100 in a session. He finished the day 112 unbeaten, and you guys see that beamer that he copped from Wood, who, by the way, bowls absolute fucking wheels, regularly over 150 Ks. Very quick to apologise was Mark Wood. That one would have stung a little bit. And also the stump cam picking him up.
Don't say it.
Saying to see you next Tuesday. It sounded like clear as day to me. Yeah. There's a lot of park cricket, sort of Sunday social feels about that one. Yeah. Difference is when I do it, I'm on 2. I'm not on 100. But that was a little bit funny.
I think the interesting stat, just going back to his innings as well, for an Australian, it was the second fastest innings in an Ashes.
Ashes, yeah.
And Adam Gilchrist was one with 106 strike rate. I think he
shocked me.
So
shocked me.
It was just, again.
You know who else who brought up his ton quicker?
Who?
Jack Leach, as Ricky Ponting liked to point out on the Channel 7 commentary. Leach only
he helped the Australians out. Let's put it that way.
Big time. He went at 8.4 and over. That is some 2020 kind of shit. Well, there was an obvious plan to target him, wasn't there?
Well, there was 8 sixes from the Australians through this innings. Like when they saw their chances, they definitely took them.
Well, and to be fair, the English quicks weren't that bad, especially Ollie Robinson. And going back, we did sort of we didn't really cover it. Stuart Broad left out of the side. Jimmy Anderson has a calf strain. He'll be there in Adelaide. He's bowling in the nets. He's fine. What do we think about that? Broad was, he was pretty much Warner's daddy in the last Ashes series. Obviously, in England versus Australia, a little bit different. He's a little bit older. Mm-hmm. He didn't look too happy carrying the drinks. Do you think they went with their best three quicks, or do you think Broad still got some kind of role to play in this Ashes?
Well, I think that's a chat that, though he's one of their highest ever wicket takers,
over 1,000 between him and Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah, he's maybe not in their top four. And of course, Jimmy Anderson missing out. The other three were the ones that got picked. So,
yeah, I tend to agree. I think maybe he's not in that elite mob. I've been very, very impressed with Ollie Robinson. I've said that before on the podcast. I stand by that. Mark Wood, none of them bowl as quick as Mark Wood does.
So that's the thing. Like, I was just thinking about it. Like, you wouldn't leave Wood out for Broad because they are different bowlers. You want that thunderbolt type bowler that bowls wheels.
Yep.
And then you have the guys that do the line and length. So, and Robinson's been excellent. Woke seems, he's been in the team for ages. And
it hasn't been bad.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't been bad.
And he can bat as well. Well, actually, it's true. Broad can bat. So
yeah, they're going to throw it around.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting to see what they do with the Adelaide lineup, which is only.
I think they'll all
that starts
play
next Thursday, so they only will get 3 full days of rest.
Yeah, and depending when this test finishes, but
interesting. Interesting.
We'll get to that.
It may finish tomorrow. Who knows? 2 for 220. This would be one of the amazing fight backs if England were to manage to.
We'll
get a result
We'll chat about
here.
that in a second about day 3, but I'd say that it doesn't. The 5 of them, they'll all play through this Ashes series.
Yeah. Some kind of rotation policy.
Yeah, they'll get
excellent depth as well. It's probably their strong suit. Don't want to fucking rip on Jack Leach too much, but he doesn't seem to be offering too much.
Well, did you see the Justin Langer quote? He said
regarding Leach.
Yeah, well, regarding the bowling lineups, he said the big difference is we have a world class spinner in our side. So, but, getting very to that point of like, hey, we've got Nathan Lyon, you guys got a bloke by the name of Leach.
He's been the butt of a few jokes over the last few days. Has poor Jack Leach. Be interesting to see if he's even there in Adelaide. We spoke about the streaker already. Got smoked by the Aussie security guard. Jarvo, take note if you plan on coming down here post pandemic. The boys didn't know how to put a shot on down here. Day 3. This was today, Friday, and this is when the Test match turned from fucking everyone going 5-0, they suck, we're all over them, suck me off, England. This is when it turned. So head finished with 152.
Right through the middle of the day as well, because, sorry, I'll let you finish in a minute. With the Australians putting on a really good score, having a good almost 300-odd lead, 283, I think it was. 278. So, like a really good lead to kick it off, and then the English side came out. But finish off with these, as you're saying, Starkey.
Not too much to say. Head went on. He got his 150. Stark hung around to help him out. I think I messaged you guys and I said, oh, geez, I hope Hazelwood can just hang around for a little bit, and the Head goes absolutely nuts. It was Head that got out.
Neck minute.
Neck minute. He got skittled by Mark Wood. 152 off 148. One of the great knocks in recent memory. And then England go out there. Rory Burns didn't face up, which was interesting. I think that shows a little bit of head noise, a little bit of internal anxiety. Pretty much every time I've ever gone out to bat ever, I think would have been going through Rory Burns.
He was given out, I think, in the second over with the LBW, but that was
good review.
Good review.
And I was watching Channel 7 and Ricky Ponting was on, and that bloke is dead set fucking psychic.
Well, he knows cricket, let's put it that way.
He knows cricket. Yeah, he's one of the best Australian cricketers of all time. And he just goes, ooh, above the knee roll might be a little bit high. Straight. That's the first thing he said. Yeah. And turns out it was above the knee roll and it was a little bit high. And it was kind of interesting because that's the old conventional wisdom, above the knee roll. And it turned out to be exactly right. And maybe on Australian decks, different to, say, in the subcontinent. But general rule, if it hits you on your front pad and it's above the knee roll, it's probably going over. And he's saying before DRS, that was the rule. You'd ask the bowler where did it hit, and it came through to fruition. So Burns getting away with one there. He missed out on a pair. He did only make 13.
Yeah, it didn't last much longer after that anyway.
He's on toast. Harris, we're talking about Marcus Harris having a bit of head noise. I think Rory Burns would be in that boat too. Hamid stuck around for a little bit, showed a little bit. God, he got out to that was a shit ball. that was Pat Cummins just putting it on his hip, just trying to sort of glance it down the fine leg for a single, and I think he got his glove and went through to Carey. And what were they at that stage? They were 2 for not many. They were 2 for 61. Yep. We kind of started thinking, maybe this. I think I sent a text to some of the boys. I said, if we get root early, games today, it'll finish today.
Well, I think I was telling you, I was like, I'm kind of, if it goes the way it did in their first innings, like this test will be done today. I think you said to me, it was like, maybe they'll come back and it'll be over in the morning.
That's what I was thinking, early tomorrow.
But how things can change when Milan and Root, they both get in. They faced a lot of balls to get their first 50 as a partnership, but by that point they were in. Now currently Milan's on 80 and Root's on 86, both looking to ton up in the morning.
Massive partnership. And I tell you what, the deck, it looks better now than it did on day one. It's kind of firmed up a little bit. It seems a little bit more consistent. It seems like it's better batting out there now than it was day one.
So go back to my question I was going to ask you about Cummins and his captaincy. What did you see in that last session with these guys kind of getting away from the Australians? Do you think, is there anything lacking there? Did you see anything early? Or
I'm a big Nathan Lyon fan. I think he may have been a little bit over bowled. There was a lot. There wasn't a lot of turn out there.
24 overs.
Yeah,
the others.
Hazelwood only bowled 8. Hazelwood. I know it gets done to death, but he's like McGrath. He's McGrath-esque. I don't know if he was dealing with some kind of strain or fatigue. Maybe I would have liked to see a little bit more out of Hazelwood. Stark was being Stark. He'd bowl one where you just go, oh, geez, like that's going to take someone's head off or that's going to take someone's poles.
And then give him 3 runs.
And then erratic, he goes for a little bit. Interesting, a little bit of as well, just on Mitchell Stark, a little stoush between Shane Warne and Stark. Shane Warne saying before the test that
don't pick him.
Yeah, he didn't want him to be picked, and then he came out on Twitter today and said, excellent bowling from Mitchell Stark. They've kissed and made up and moved forward.
I think Warney knows what he's doing. He's trying to send a rocket at him, get him G'd up.
He's a talking head that is one of the best cricketers of all time. Yeah. So that's kind of like what we do, but we've accomplished nothing.
Yeah, so, he's got a platform and he used it.
Indeed. And, fair enough, Warney. He does get a little hard to listen to, I think, sometimes these days. But I can't critique too much. Yeah. As an overall, I thought it was the first 2 sessions really that England won in the Test match so far. Joe Root, he's one of the best batsmen in the world. He got done by a peach in the first innings, and he fought hard and deserved the runs. Milan, who is yet to be really proven yet at Test level, obviously an excellent white ball cricketer. They both went at it, and as an Australian fan, I was thinking all afternoon, geez, it went from we've got him on toast to need a wicket to this is kind of swinging a Test match a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the point going into day 4. The things to probably look out for is how does that say field position? How does the strategy from the Australian team led by Cummins come into that day 4? Do they let it get away from them? How much does Steve Smith assert himself into that picture? Because the concern is the English will bat all day tomorrow, put 500 odd, give the Australians 200 plus to chase on the last day, and actually put this in a position of being a very competitive test. A lot's got to happen in that point.
Sure, to make 500.
Yeah, but if these two ton up and they can't get them out, and they'll look like they'll ton up in the first session, and if they can control that session, they bat through to lunch. If they bat most of tomorrow, they've got wickets in hand. They could put a really good score on.
I think the first hour tomorrow will be telling. the first hour. You got to go back out there. You got to restart mentally. Different.
Going to be in the noughties very, very soon.
Different conditions. I think the first hour will be huge. Monks, if you wouldn't mind just chasing up some live odds. We're still in front. We're still in front.
Favourites to win is definitely big time in Australia.
Yeah,
we're in a commanding position, but
we were in a commanding position. We're in front now.
We still got.
They trail by 58, and these guys are in. They've got to reset tomorrow and go back about it, but. This partnership is really starting to swing the test.
Yeah, and that's probably the concern if the Australians let it get away from them. If Joe Root does what he did in India, gets 200, and then you've and if he's got support around him because he's still got Stokes to come in, like the other guy, there's still Guy Butler as well. They like to throw it around.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
can put on some runs and
imagine you got 400 on the board and Stokes and Butler can come in with a fucking license.
Exactly. Yeah, that target of 500 is probably where they're aiming because that will give them a lead of 220. I think. Quick math.
Ballpark.
Yeah, so it's that's I think their goal tomorrow, and if they can do that, then they'll be hopefully put the Australians in a tough spot. They need, of course, we'll need wickets early in day 5. Like there's a lot to happen to get them to that point, but if they can achieve that in day 4, they've definitely swung the test match heavily back in their favour.
Monks, the odds, the live odds, courtesy of our not so sure if they're mates or just take our money sports bet.
That's it. So live odds at the moment, Australia is still $1.39 to win. England's out at $7.50. We're at the draw at $4.75. And just to that, midday today, so less than 10 hours ago, we were as short as $1.04.
They've swung it. I've got horrible memories of Stokes, in the last Ashes, winning an unwinnable test. I'm just having a look at the Brisbane weather, courtesy of the Bureau of Meteorology.
Can they be a sponsor? Or?
I don't know. Well, I was just saying to your pre-show that they can't predict the weather for shit. I was actually saying I had a rain day yesterday, right? I didn't have to work. We had 30 to 50 mils predicted. I reckon it rained about 2 mil, if that. That might be over. So I was saying to Max, imagine if surgeons got their jobs wrong by a factor of 25. Do you know what I mean? Don't worry. There's only 2% chance that you'll die in this surgery, love. That is substantial. And then they're going, holy shit, it's 50% chance. Fuck, we're losing now. Beep, beep, beep. Very interesting. This the weatherman, he rarely delivers. So according to the BOM, and definitely not future sponsor of the Esky, it's government money. I don't know if that's allowed. Should be okay the next few days. Shouldn't be any rain delays.
Queensland, they only really get rain of like a late afternoon, late evening anyway. So, which would only affect the later sessions. So there should be plenty of cricket played, and they should get most of this test match in. Even if there's a little bit of rain. Monks, what's that note there at the end about the 5th test of the Ashes?
Yes. Yeah. So Cricket Australia's finally made their decision, and unfortunately for Canberra, Hobart has won that 5th test. So that will be played down there in the new year.
Yeah,
you know what? Shout out to the Tasmanians. I'm glad for them that it wasn't a double up on Melbourne or Sydney.
Yeah, especially after Western Australia said, fuck that, we hate money. And it's gone to Tasmania. So, I think the double up, as we talked about last week, was doable, but felt odd. It just felt icky.
It seemed like a financial kind of thing. And apparently this is all allegedly. So Cricket Tasmania has a 1/6 share in Cricket Australia because they're one of the 6 shield, states that play. And they said from our Cricket Australia money that comes in, we're happy to match whatever projected revenue you think you would get out of a Melbourne or Sydney test. They were scheduled, as we mentioned last week, to play Afghanistan. They lost that test. They haven't been getting as much cricket of late. So any Tasmanian listeners on the Esky here, get down to the test, sell out all those days, take your sister, don't hook up with her afterwards, and make it a really nice 5th test, please, and thank you.
I asked you this question earlier. Hopefully we're 4-0 by that point, but It'd be crazy to think if we're going into the Tasmania test as a decider.
Imagine a deciding test in fucking Hobart, Tasmania. That would be wild.
It would be.
I'm still pretty confident it'll be wrapped up by then, but yeah, time will tell.
Yeah,
Yep.
someone clip that so we can use that later when we're 2-all.
Right. And that's also planned to be day nighter as well.
Yeah, so two day nighters. And then who does that? Where's the advantage go there? England, probably their strength, their quicks. They like a swimming ball. Swinging ball.
And Tasmanian weather. So
England, yeah, Tasmania probably most reminiscent of English conditions. So very, very interesting. Unfortunate for us Canberrans that the theatre of dreams up the road, Manuka Oval, misses out. But alas, we will see the 5th and final test in mid-January down there in Hobart.
I guess that's enough about the Australia and Ashes so far. We got to finish. Well, we got to keep going with the cricket theme.
Jeez, I could talk about it all night.
I know. We get stuck in. But we got to talk about the India versus New Zealand second test, which kind of ended up being a non-event with the New Zealand team getting smoked in their first innings.
Yes and no. I wouldn't say a non-event. One of the most unusual test matches that I've seen in a long, long time. Kohli comes back. We're talking about who would be in, who would be out for India. Something that blindsided us was dropping or him having a hamstring injury. For those listening, I'm doing the inverted commas on the hamstring injury. Ajinkya Rahane, the captain of the last test, the vice captain of India, missed out. Social media was going nuts. There was a lot of speculation around his form.
Yeah, well, by all reports, his form's not been great of late. So,
22 test innings, 250s.
Yeah.
And the last time he scored a ton was actually against us on Boxing Day last year. Twitter, I did see some funny ones. This morning, Rahane found out that he was injured. Breaking news, Rahane injured and also the earth is flat. They were some of my favourites. I would love to hear from our Indian listeners. I know there's a few. In the comments, your thoughts around Rahane, his place in the test team. Do you think he is injured? Do you think he got a little tap on the shoulder? And where do you think Ajinkya Rahane will be going forward? Kane Williamson.
Well, just to finish up my thoughts on that, I think they've done the political kind of move on. They've done him the solid instead of, hey, you were our captain, are our vice captain, instead of just saying you dropped outright because you've been shit lately.
They didn't Tim Payne him and release dick pics that they knew about before.
Yeah, they've gone
hashtag conspiracy theory.
Yeah, they've gone.
Not my own thoughts, just things that I've seen.
Just do the red dog, pull the hammy at training, and we'll just say that's the reason you're not in the squad for this week.
Very, very interesting there. Kane Williamson, New Zealand's best player by far, out with an elbow injury. You're never going to fare well missing Kane Williamson. Darren Mitchell came in for his sixth test. Was very good in the T20 World Cup. Tom Latham gets the gig as the skipper. India made light work of it, really, making 325, although a lot of that came down to Mayank Agarwal. We were even saying, maybe Agarwal's position might be in danger last week. Not anymore, I don't think. 150, the third test for him. He's been in and out of the side. You'd think he's probably cemented for a few more now. There's a lot of pressure building on Virat Kohli. Pujara got a duck, but Kohli got a duck in the first innings. Over 2 years since his last test century. We'll talk about it quickly now as well. BCCI is saying that they want him to give up the ODI captaincy. Obviously, he stepped down as a T20 captain last month. They just want to have one white ball captain in Rohit Sharma.
Yep.
Look, I'm not saying Virat Kohli's getting dropped anytime soon, but
that was my question. If he's removed from captain of the 50 over format, the one dayers, is he still in the side? I would say yes. So it's not really it's like it's a big like
it's nothing. No,
yeah, it's like hey, we want you to rest and focus on red ball cricket. It's not really saying that at all.
And I think it's just like a kind of like a media.
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, we just.
But he's still
want yeah. He's one of the best white ball cricketers.
Every second ad in India is Virat Kohli. So like, I don't think about it.
They love him. They love him. But in a test format, he's struggling. He really hasn't made many runs for a long time. So interesting to see what happens with King Coley moving forward. One of the funniest moments out of this week in any sport was Ravi Ashwin reviewing after getting clean bowled. He must have thought that he got caught behind. You know, he might have thought the death rattle was going into the keeper's glove or something.
Well, maybe he
But
assumed
fuck, it was funny to watch.
Maybe he should do as Ben Stokes and he thrown the no ball down there.
Maybe,
so
yeah.
Just check the fair
no ball. Thanks. I'll use up a review on that. Oh my goodness, I was laughing. Old Tim, look, this probably hasn't aged too well considering what Tim Payne's gone through the last sort of month. But him against Ashwin last summer saying, at least my teammates like me. The more that you watch Ashwin, the more that you kind of think that way. He's a rare operator, a very, very good bowler at that.
Oh, definitely.
But speaking of good bowlers, Ajaz Patel, 10 for 119. He did bowl 47 overs, so just about half the overs in the innings. But he became the third player in Test history to achieve that feat. You've got to go back 22 years to Anil Kumble in 1999 doing it, and then way back when to Jim Laker, the Pommy, in 1956 to take all 10. That's some fucking schoolyard shit. Just getting them all. So shout out to him. He puts his name in the record books. Unfortunately for the Black Caps, not much time to celebrate. They got absolutely skittled. 62, the lowest score in India ever, which for me was a little bit surprising. I thought some of their decks over there, deteriorating, especially fourth innings. I thought maybe there would have been one lower than that. It was New Zealand's sixth lowest score ever. Ravi Ashwin 4 for 8. Mohammad Siraj back in the side 3 for 19. Absolutely cleaned them up and took control of this Test match.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my point there that I was saying in the open. Like at this point in the Test match, we were like, India's going to do this quite easily. They did follow that up and score another 276 runs for only 7 down before. I assume they declared with a handy lead of over 500.
Yeah. Good luck, guys.
Just a cool 500.
Yeah, getting the boys a little bit of practice out there. Agarwal top scored again, 62. But Akshar Patel, we've seen what he can do with the ball. He can hit one as well. He had 41 off 26. Ajaz Patel.
The other Patel.
Yeah, Akshar Ajaz. We got it. 4 for 106, so he finishes with 14 in the match. Second best in New Zealand history behind Sir Richard Hadley, who once had 15. New Zealand, they just fell short of that 500 odd with 167. Darryl Mitchell top scored for them. Ravi Ashwin got 4, as did Jayant Yadav. So India heads off to South Africa. They have got 3 tests starting Boxing Day and 3 ODIs, I believe, over there. Whereas New Zealand comes home. They've got 2 against Bangladesh, who we'll talk about just briefly now.
Well, we'll get in a second because the question we've
love fucking up my segue.
yeah. Well, you keep skipping ahead.
All right, what did you need to cover?
Well, we've been asking the question, and now the series has ended. Who is your number 1 Test team in the world? Monks, if you want, you can find us the ICC rankings currently of who they've got won. But after seeing that result in that series and their recent form, who have you got as number 1?
It's an impossible question. It's cricket in the egg. Cricket in the egg. The chicken in the egg. The chicken in the egg, if you will. It's a really hard thing because in India, who can beat it? Who can beat them?
Well, they're dominant.
That's what I was going to ask, if this match Test was played anywhere else.
But if
we have seen not necessarily the same result, but a closer match. Or
we saw a neutral ground in England that New Zealand won. We saw in the first test it went to the draw, so very competitive from New Zealand to do that.
Sure.
But then the second they essentially got smoked. So, where does that kind of lead? Because I think we've been saying they're 1 and 2. Who is your 1 and who is your 2 currently?
What do the rankings say? They've got India ahead.
So, India's ahead now. after 28 matches, they've got 3,465 points with a rating of 124.
What that means.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
That's some kind of physics kind of, in year 10 we just going, I don't get any of this.
It's not quick math, we understand.
No,
there's nothing quick
we
about
struggle
that.
with the basic kind of stuff.
So New Zealand?
Yeah, New
Zealand's
Zealand. Yeah, so in the, I guess, however they've been ranking,
give us the
rating it.
numbers.
So they played 25 matches. They've got 3,021 points with a rating of 121.
So what's the difference?
400 points.
So it's like
Try and work that out, but
so it's a bee's dick in the conversation of it 3,000 and something?
Well, it's still what 15% or something.
Yeah,
but
well,
then
there's one game difference.
But Australia in that period have played 17 tests, and India's played 28, and it's not done off an average; it's done off a total. So who the fuck knows? Like these rankings. I don't know. I like the player rankings. I think the player rankings make a lot of sense. But the team rankings from the ICC, hard to get your head around.
Well, my thoughts as a team, I think I might have New Zealand slightly ahead based on the fact they won on the neutral ground and they did draw a match in India, which is, very impressive to do.
Sure.
Before, of course, getting destroyed. Whereas the flip side, India lost the neutral ground.
Yeah.
They had played out the draw. Essentially, they couldn't get a win on the home turf in the first test, and then did what everyone probably expected them to do in the second. So I think I just lean slightly, maybe those 400 points, I think are in the other direction slightly to New Zealand at this stage. But I think they're probably clearly 1 and 2 from everything we've seen recently.
I'll counter that point. I think I'll slightly go towards India. Again, this is apples and oranges. I think India so dominant at home. I think away from home, India tend to perform much better than anyone else kind of does. We go back to last year, obviously getting a win on foreign soil here, playing admirably in England.
Well, yeah, I
think their depth at the moment.
Their depth is great, but I think that England tests really blue balls us, getting a result in that series of who's actually a winner, then finishing out with the drawn series that it was.
And not having that decider.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of COVID, at the 9th hour. So
if they win that series, I'd swing the other way. I'd say they again, we're slightly ahead. But since it's kind of ended in a draw, we didn't really get the clear climax that we needed.
There's no clear answer. There's no climax. There's no climax. Australia hasn't played. We're playing our first test here since January. I don't think there's any way to do it other than the way that the ICC have done it, and New Zealand won the World Test Championship. So they're the best test team in the world as far as I'm concerned, even though I just argued for India. But that further proves my point that it's not cut and dry.
It's so close. You just said it. So
Pakistan did play Bangladesh. Interesting test match. This one severely rain affected there in Dhaka. They destroyed them actually by an innings. Mohammad Rizwan chipped in with 76. Interesting captaincy here. They played aggressive. They wanted to win. They had limited time. They declared for just 300. Their top 6 all made 25 plus. And then Sajid Khan, remember the name, in his 4th test went out there and made 8 for 42, or took 8 for 42, I should say. Pakistan enforced a follow on, and Bangladesh only made 205. Sajid 4 for 86, finished with 12 for the match. I know, obviously, white ball cricket, red ball cricket, not the same thing, but Pakistan very, very impressive in the World Cup, beating Bangladesh away there in the 2 Test series. Hopefully going to get some cricket back home next year. Would love to see Pakistan get to, where they were at in the late 80s, early 90s, when you had, a Wasim Akram, a Waqar
feels
Yunus.
like they're on their ascend a little bit.
Yeah. Babar Azam is world class. Mohammad Rizwan is world class. Shane Afridi looks very good. I think it's good for cricket to have a strong Pakistan.
Oh, definitely, because we've talked about the other 4. It adds a 5th. South Africa, of course, have been struggling of late. So
a little bit.
We want to go back to the 6, where essentially South
Africa has a talent. South Africa has a talent. the administration and the politics and everything seems to be an absolute clusterfuck. But I think cricket would benefit from having a strong Pakistan and a strong South Africa at that.
Agree, definitely. Big Bash. Peppy, do you want to run us through Big Bash? Because I think we mentioned before they're missing some stars because of the Australia A game being played against England. Yes, please. Against the England Lions, which England Lions were all out for 100 in a bit, not very well. And I think the Aussie squad in their second innings already have put on a 200-run lead. So those guys missing out, unfortunately, the kick-off, the start of the Big Bash League. But what has happened in the couple of matches that we've had so far?
Yeah, just to sort of reiterate that point, it really does change the dynamic of the Big Bash. Obviously, you never have the test players available. It always goes concurrently with the test series. But then when you take away the next best 11, you know, the likes of a Mitch Marsh, a Josh Inglis, and Usman Khawaja, Nick Maddison, Mitch Swepson, to name a few, you start kind of going, I was in this first match. I was looking at this Melbourne Stars team, and I'm googling guys. I'm going, I don't know who the fuck this is. This is a Melbourne grade cricketer. Like seriously, a few of these boys. Hats off to them. They're playing Big Bash. They're getting out there, getting a bit of TV, getting their name out there. But I was really struggling because I didn't really know a lot of these blokes. So in that first match, the Stars blooded 6 debutants. They didn't have Marcus Stoinis available. They're playing right now, if you wouldn't mind bringing that one up. Dre Russ has signed with them, so that might boost them with Stoinis and Dre Russell in the side, but they got absolutely fucking dicked in this game. It was the biggest ever winning margin in BBL history. We're in the 11th year of the Big Bash, so that speaks volumes to how well the Sixers played and how much the young Stars struggled. Josh Phillippe, 83, and Moses Enriques, 76, not off, not many balls. They absolutely shitted him. Game 2 was here at Manuka Oval, the Theatre of Dreams. The Sydney Thunder beat the Brisbane Heat. It always seems to be the same recipe with the Brisbane Heat. If you get Chris Lynn, you're in with a shot, and that's what happened. Daniel Sams and Gurunda Sandhu, very good with the ball for the Thunder, and Sam Billings and Alex Ross getting it done with the bat.
I just got to help out the KO noob here. You got to go viewing options and then pick the two screens to then pop them out to do the two.
Yeah, no, just playing around with new settings I hadn't seen before. You can
speaking of noobs, I just brought this beer to my mouth and it has a cap on it. And there's our man Roy Simons. He's out there commentating.
So what do they have to get? Their target's 166. They're 2 for 30 down. That is the Thunder chasing the Stars.
We will monitor that as we go. Game 3, the closest game so far, and an early contender for catch of the series. Jake Fraser McGurk, I think I sent it to you boys, on the boundary, got hops on him. Who says white guys can't jump? Woody Harrelson did in a 1980s movie, maybe early 1990s. That was a really, really good one-handed catch. Mackenzie Harvey top scored for the Gades. They get the win there. Match 4, the Sixers beat the Hurricanes. After a sloppy start, Moses Enriques, 73. He's off to an excellent start. Interesting kind of story here around Enriques. That South Africa tour that was meant to go ahead in March and it got canned because of the Coco. He was in the top 15. He was in the Australian Test squad in that. 9 months down the track, no red ball cricket's been played of note.
No chat about him at all.
And he's not in the Australia A side. So I don't know what Enriques, his personal thoughts around that. Maybe a little bit hard done by. Obviously an excellent white ball player and showing it here. I did notice, though, with this Australia A team, they're looking at youth more so than old heads. Glenn Maxwell, for example, is not playing Australia A. A few.
No Wade. I don't think either.
No Wade, no Sean Marsh. They're really trying to blood some young guys. No Curtis Patterson we'll talk about in the next game.
I was upset, no Phillippe, but they've got Inglis in there, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and look, Phillippe is an absolute star.
He's 4 years away.
And will play a lot of cricket for Australia, undoubtedly. But yeah, he maybe is just that little bit, just that little bit green, let's say. But yeah, the Sixers get a win. They're 2-0. They're looking for the three-peat. We're looking for that, that famous Instagram video of them in front of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. The sun's coming up. They're still in their full kit. They're doing the Tom Brady, the Gronk, the we ain't going nowhere. We ain't. So they'll look really good. No reason why they can't do a three-peat. Match 5, we saw the Scorchers defeat the Heat by just 6 runs. Curtis Patterson, we did mention another bloke who went from playing Test cricket, his first 2 tests, against Sri Lanka in that series in 2019 to not getting a look in Australia. He made 55 for his new club. Matthew Kelly, good with the ball there for the Scorchers. And the Strikers, a really good team effort, doing the Renegades last night by 49 runs. We'll keep an eye on Game 7, the Stars and Thunder going at it this week. Tonight, I should say. And that wraps up the week in cricket. A huge week. Huge week. An hour of cricket. Hope you enjoyed it, all our cricket fans. I don't know, maybe we'll do an emergency podcast after this test finishes. We'll see what happens. If not, we'll wrap it all up. The Ashes are underway, and it's summertime, baby. It's beer drinking and cricket watching season.
Yeah, well, depending on when we do next week's podcast, we could be a day down or 2 days into.
We could be into Adelaide. Yeah.
Maybe
we need to do an emergency one to wrap up the test.
So, as Pep says, that ends cricket hour, and that means we've got to go into the NFL hour now to tackle all the news that has been happening in the NFL. A quick look back on week 13, one of the biggest stories, the Lions finally won a game.
They're off the nudie run.
Yeah.
One of that has to be the biggest.
Yeah. What about that meme that got sent around, and it was pretty much like a circle, of everyone, like a rock, paper, scissors, if you will, with 32 teams. And they had probably had that ready to go for weeks. They just needed the Lions to win a game to make it all work. I tell you why. I put Minnesota in a multi. It was the only one that lost. So all citizens of Detroit, the Motor City, you can thank this young Australian pisshead for getting your team a win by betting against them.
You said pisshead. I was going to say they should shout you a beer. So
probably up there in Michigan, they probably don't mind a beer. There's probably a few sad beers up there, considering the motor industry has gone to shit. But that's okay. Sad beers, happy beers, doesn't matter.
Potentially in your multi, you may have had the teams that were playing against the Washington football team, the Raiders and the Steelers, because they all had upsets.
I didn't have any of them. This was the one leg that lost. It's always one. It's always fucking one. They were the other upsets from week 13. Yeah, the football team, they've 4 in a row. They're winning against the Raiders. The Steelers beat the Ravens, and then we'll talk about them in just a second. And the Seahawks are getting off a losing streak against the 49ers. The best, I think, game, or the most.
Well, we said
the weirdest,
and we said it was probably potentially should have been. It was going to be the game of the week,
and and we did speak about it. If you check the tape, we said weather could be an issue up there in Orchid Park.
The Pats taking on the Bills is what we're leading to, essentially for the AFC first seed after the Ravens did lose to the Steelers. I think it was interesting, like you said. It was blowing a gale, it was snowing, the blizzard-ish kind of conditions up there. Interesting in the pre-game conversation that Bill Belichick in his interview was wearing a Navy face mask because basically he implemented the Navy's offense, which is the 3-back set and just pound the rock because that's all they did all day.
That's what they did. Mac Jones had 3 passing attempts, so two completions, 3 attempts. It's reminiscent of some of our own football here down in Australia. Just pound the rock. Mac Jones, a Twitter post from 2015, he hadn't seen snow growing up. The first time he saw snow was playing high school football, I believe, on an away game. All he had to do was hand the ball off. I think
40 plus times.
Yeah,
So
I think Matt Judon said in the post-match they asked him about Mac Jones. He said he did well. All he had to do was hand it off and did it well.
I think it was more disappointing from, say, the Bills because you would have thought by halftime they realised, hey, these guys aren't throwing the ball. Let's put 12 in the – well, we can't put 12. put 11 in the box, get everyone up.
12 men.
Yeah, put them
Just
all.
sneak one on.
Yeah, put them all up there, and then try to egg them into trying to throw the pass. But yeah,
You guys see Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer walking out of the interview post match. Yeah,
they weren't happy.
Yeah, the press said essentially. I thought a fair question. Why couldn't you stop them? They got run on for 250 odd yards, and Hyde and Poyer took offence. And
Well, didn't Harris also break a 50-plus run as well?
yeah,
score a
so
touchdown,
he took a long one to the house. Ramondre Stevenson had over 20 touches. They just pounded the rock on them, and the Bills couldn't stop it. And the converse of it is that the Bills' passing game is elite.
The front seven.
But they can't run the ball.
On offense. Sorry, I'm talking.
Offensively,
I'm saying the same thing. Their secondary is pretty elite, but their front seven's been a bit lacking of late in the defensive side. And Edwards being the big name there in the middle.
I'm saying on the other side of the ball,
same thing. They can pass the ball, but they can't run.
They cannot run it. So in games like this, when there is a bit of weather,
and I think we've been saying that for almost over a year now, especially running into the draft, their draft special. For them, it's like, hey, their biggest weakness and hole is running back. They need to find a runner there. I think maybe Zach Moss is what they hoping could potentially high draft pick, second rounder could do, but he's been hurt and he hasn't really.
He was a healthy scratch 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So
Matt Breeder's come in and sort of done a little bit, but
did nothing in this game.
But how much is it the running back and how much is it the offensive line? Some guys can pass pro, but they can't.
Well, you would think
run block.
with that passing game that they would be facing smaller boxes because the other team's playing nickel, got more corners, and trying to cover more. Like it should be easier for them to run, with a bad offensive line.
You'd think, but many games this season, Josh Allen has been the leading rusher for the Buffalo Bills. A big concern on them. Speaking of the weather, Kurt Warner was on Pardon My Take this week, and he thought that weather plays too much influence in the NFL and that all the northern states teams should build domes so the weather comes out of it and we have high-scoring offenses. Thoughts, boys?
Says the bloke that played in a dome. I think he won an MVP, didn't he?
Greatest show on turf.
Like, there might be a little bit of bias there.
Just a bit, I'd say.
Yeah.
You can't take that out of the game.
Yeah, the weather is an element. It's a part of football. Most guys they grow up playing football at 8 o'clock in the morning on the weekend, and it's freezing cold, and your parents are bitching about having to take you to sports. So it's part of the football, culture, history, whatever you want to say. Like you some places you take Green Bay. Pittsburgh, Chicago,
New England, as we saw,
New England, Buffalo. Like that's a part of their image as a club and their stadium experience. Is you coming into frozen tundra,
you see
to do battle. Like it's part of their identity. So no, I wouldn't take it away.
I agree 100%. Talking head. I don't think you're going to be convincing all these teams to build domes anytime soon. And it's cool. Like
Well, how fun is it to watch a game?
It changes the dynamic.
Blizzard,
It changes the dynamic so much.
You remember Shady playing for Buffalo for in a foot deep of snow
and killing it and killing it.
That's all time. No one will forget that for a very long time.
I nearly dragged a big old multi on this one. I had both quarterbacks unders. Yep. I had both running backs for New England overs, hit that. I had Damian Harris anytime touchdown scorer, hit that. I had Ramondre Stevenson to score a touchdown, did not, despite...
Was that the one leg you missed?
I think I missed 2 on this one. But yeah, anyways, I'll at unofficial sponsor sports bet, maybe a few bonus bets for all the time and dedication put into it. In more
just time.
Yeah. In a big swing of emotion, very sad news today in the passing of Demaryius Thomas at the tender age of 33. Had only just officially retired this year. Sean, you as a Denver fan, obviously a big fan of DT. There was a point where there was an argument that he was the best receiver in the league, definitely a top 5 receiver in the league during his time there with Peyton Manning. Not too much has come out just yet. regarding what happened?
No, they've. I just checked then quickly, see if they had reported anything new in the hours since the initial news story was broken. And all I can still find is it's the county has released and said it was medical issue related. So if it was, I think we alluded to that kind of age and that kind of specimen of an athlete towards potentially suicide.
Yeah.
If it hung himself or shot himself, I think it'd be pretty clear they would have communicated that. So it's with the talk of medical issue, it potentially could be, maybe he had an aneurysm or something like that, or a freak heart attack.
Yeah.
But it leads to me to more towards, say, an overdose of some sort of maybe even prescription medication. He's just taking too much of it. But who knows with his situation, and he's essentially, like you said, retiring for a football player, especially a massive football player, that complete change in lifestyle. Because I don't want to say, well, it is kind of like playing professional football, big stadium, the crowd, the noise, and that.
Sure.
It is a bit of a drug. It gets you hyped. There's a lot of involved in that.
Ben Cousins for our Australian listeners.
The withdrawal from that and being basically not a nobody, but you go from being hero to zero essentially, out of mind, out of sight. And it is a big change, and some a lot of people do struggle with that aspect. But
it's just it's so fucking sad, man. Yeah. Well, whatever happened, the bloke he won a Super Bowl 6 years ago. He played in 2. He was an elite. Multiple Pro Bowl wide receiver. One of my favourite wide receivers. For someone that played the position, to watch and admire. His combination of size and strength, but also his silky hands. His speed for a big guy. Very, very sad. Very sad for Denver Broncos fans. Very sad for his family. Look, when you lose someone young, probably just want to remember the best.
Oh, definitely.
And he was up there with one of the best receivers, getting around.
You'll never take away the Tebow to DT to make it to the playoffs and in overtime against the Steelers. That's an all-time memory. Winning the Super Bowl with Peyton, putting up all those numbers.
Who was it? It was him, Wes Welker, and Emmanuel Sanders, wasn't it?
So Sanders for. So the year they broke all the records, it was Decker, and then Sanders came across.
That's right.
When they made the
Eric
run
Decker,
to the Super Bowl. So it was it's a sad he's born on Christmas Day, so his birthday was coming up. He would have been 34. To lose a young fella at 33 is pretty sad. We hope not foul play, but you never know. You never know if CTE related or anything like that.
Well, and again, I've seen
who knows? It's all speculation.
Yeah, I've seen reports it's related to a seizure.
There you go.
So.
Look, it's speculation, and we don't want to.
It could purely be unlucky.
We don't want to speculate. We don't want to speculate too much, but let's remember the footballer and an excellent one at that. Vale Demarius Thomas. All right, boys, let's move through to the game that happened today. Minnesota Vikings, Pittsburgh Steelers. The teams that couldn't beat Detroit Bowl, if you will. At halftime, this game looked like absolute mud. The Vikings were all over them. They got to a 26-zip lead. And as you pointed out, Sean, the Vikings love blowing a lead, and they tried their best to do it. Dalvin Cook was on fire. Shout out to Michael Steamson. Again, it's 2 shout-outs, I think, tonight. I'm playing him in our fantasy league. I'm up against the ropes. He's flying high, and he started Alexander Madison over Dalvin Cook, who had 27 carries for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. After that 26-zip lead, the Pittsburgh...
I think they got to 29.
Did he get to 29?
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh scored their quick touchdown. And then for whatever reason...
They scored 3.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins kept throwing picks.
Cousins threw a few picks. And again, you kind of pound the fucking rock, man.
Yeah,
I think you were saying, get Madison in there, just share the load.
Yeah, pound the clock. Run that Patriots offense. But for whatever reason... I think Justin Jefferson had 14 targets. He was just throwing his direction, and Pittsburgh kind of clocked it like
7 for 79 off those.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
not-
and they clocked. Well, why don't we just like triple cover him, and then when they throw those deep balls to him, we'll pick some of those off. And
no Adam Thielen
Yeah.
in it.
so they did lose TJ Watt through this as well. So
that we need to keep an eye on that one. Monks, can you?
because
have-
everyone's like, oh,
have a look there. If you
yeah, he
wouldn't mind.
may have been able to come back. Well, they'll just rest him, whatever. But then for whatever reason, the Steelers came alive. Big Ben found old Big Ben.
He's throwing some lasers.
Yeah,
man.
I'm throwing some lasers in there, and there's chat. Well, we'll get to that in a minute about his potential retirement at the end of the season. But it looked vintage, and they scored a quick 28 points to bring this pretty close. But the Vikings always stayed one touchdown ahead.
That last drive, though,
The very last drive, yes.
I think they burnt their last time out with over a minute to go, and Minnesota were trying to defend the deep ball. They just kept going underneath, and Claypool and Ray McLeod were getting out of bounds. They
were getting. What happened? What did Chase do?
Well, this was dumb. This was really, really dumb. Out of Chase Claypool, a talented player, came along leaps and bounds last year. He caught a 4th and 4 ball for the first down. It was like a slant, so it was going into the middle of the field, no chance to get out of bounds. Got tackled. He he gave the old.
Well, he's doing the knee, and he's on one knee, and he just slowly
gave the first down,
First down.
the first down point ahead, and then an offensive lineman ran over to try and get the ball.
Yeah, it's like, dickhead, give him the ball. We need to spike this.
Get it back and spike it. But then I think he knocked it out of his hands, and then they had to chase after it, and it wiped out about 8 seconds out of the play clock. Game clock, if you will. However, it didn't really matter because they got the shot at the end zone.
Well, they got a shot.
I think they could have been close. Yeah, maybe
they might have got two in that instance.
Yeah, that is a good point. Roethlisberger, throwing the clock back. That was a laser. It was a tight window. Looking for the rookie Pat Frymuth. Put it on him. He got two hands there. But Minnesota defense played it very, very well. I think it was Xavier Woods and Harrison Smith there delivering the shot. Frymuth couldn't hold on, and Minnesota got away with a 36-28 win and a sneakily entertaining game.
Yeah, ignore the first 3 quarters. Just watch the fourth because, it became
That's
a bit
what
of a
I
shootout.
turned over to the cricket, and then I was getting messages on my phone. I was like, geez, better throw this on. And then I was going, holy fuck, this is good watching. The Vikings win that one. And that was, let's talk about Big Ben.
Yes.
Big Ben.
Yes. So I alluded to it before. The reports came out during the week that behind the scenes, family, friends, whatever, Big Ben's kind of said, yeah, this is my last year. He probably realised when he was throwing passes, falling over with no one around him, like it doesn't look elite Ben, barring this fourth quarter, of course. He's banged up. The offensive line's not really doing so much. The club's not really going anywhere at the moment.
And we've spoken about it week after week
week.
He looks old.
Yeah. So looking like he will retire at the end of the year. But then what does that mean for the Steelers? Because they've got Mason Rudolph there.
Do you think he's a franchise quarterback?
No, I don't think he's for whatever reason, he's still their backup, I think. I would have liked to have seen Haskins probably try to get more involved in that.
We saw him light it up in the preseason.
Yeah, whether maybe the two of them battle it out next year. Either way, potentially what I think will happen is maybe they'll pick one and then suck next year and then see where they end up draft-wise, pick-wise, because they'll pick middle of the pack in the coming draft.
I don't see that happening. I don't think the fans, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, hard-nosed, used to a lot of success. I don't think they'll stand for a year of tanking.
So that's why I think potentially they'll try to do the bridge, which more of a veteran. Andy Dalton's a guy off contract that kind of fits into that mold.
Gardner Minshew.
I think Minshew was probably the biggest shout because though not an older veteran player, like I think it's his third year in the league.
Maybe 4, but
but as a guy that he can win football games. He did it for the Eagles
on the weekend. Yep.
Yeah, so he can definitely sling the rock. So that kind of fits. I think he kind of fits that Steeler mold a little bit.
Just a quick tangent. You see him and his old man afterwards.
Big time celebrating. Like they know how important it is. So his chat was elite during the preseason. Like I haven't taken a number 2 all preseason because I ain't going to be a backup. So
that video with his old man, geez. to experience that once. Oh, God, that. Anyways, maybe I should have a bit more talent.
Yeah, that's probably like, don't be a disappointment. And then maybe
get out of the back of my head. Get out of the back of my head.
I get.
Moving forward. So, free agency, could they have a stab?
Yeah, well, free agency, like was alluding to a veteran potentially. There's the three big names that could be on the block with Watson and Rogers well known. Wilson kind of entered the chat this week. There's reports he said I've seen 3 clubs, and there's other reports saying 4. I know Broncos, Giants, and I can't remember the third one. He'd waiver his no trade clause for. So they're in the conversation there. Wilson to Steelers, maybe, who knows?
What do we think the chances of the Steelers nabbing any of those guys are?
It depends how much they want to give up. It sounds like Watson to the Finns looks like a pre-done deal. Rogers, for all the chat, I think they're finally kind of pandering to him in Green Bay, so he probably stays.
So they should.
Yeah, and Wilson, again, Mace, I think he stays. If Pete Carroll retires, then I think he moves.
Okay.
And he could end up anywhere, realistically. As a 33-year-old quarterback, been to 2 Super Bowls, won one. The draft, so
yep.
The current draft, everyone's talking about it being a weak kind of draft for quarterbacks.
Bryce Young's lighting it up.
Yeah. Well, I think I sent to you the 2017 draft for quarterbacks was said to be quite weak. Trubisky went second, but then you had guys called Pat
Mahomes was one of them,
and Deshaun Watson go, I think, 11 and 12.
Yeah, pretty handy footballers.
So I think you can find quarterbacks in any draft.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think there's probably going to be 5 guys come out, which maybe one goes in the first round and the others are like second rounders.
You got a few there. That Kenny Pickett looked okay.
Kenny Pickett from Pitts. Who else have we got here? Matt Corral.
Who was the
Malik Willis?
Oh, was it Oklahoma? The guy
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah,
so he'll play. He'll play next year again because lost his job this year. So yeah, a bit hard to kind of foresee that far ahead.
And that might actually be more a reflection of where college football is, and we'll get to that in a minute. With it's been a very different kind of year with a lot of upsets and a lot of new colleges that hadn't done overly great in recent years, like popping out of nowhere.
Go Bearcats!
Yeah, Cincinnati is an example. So potentially, there is a diamond there, a quarterback, and you're just going to have to do your hard work and potentially find him. Can remember a guy like Dak Prescott, 4th round pick.
Sure. Yeah.
Russell Wilson, we just mentioned before. I think he was a third.
Yep.
So, there are guys there that can potentially become franchise quarterbacks.
Tom Brady, I think.
He's the classic. Fuck Tom Brady.
He's still playing in the league somewhere.
Anyways, I think we have spoken at length of the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise.
Not bright, I think, is where we're leading to this. They need to find something. I don't think.
Definitely some kind of rebuild.
Yes.
In the near future. Week 14,
let's preview some football.
The last week of buys, fantasy football will be leading into the finals. The Sunday early games, Cowboys, Washington football team, big NFC East matchup. The Cowboys coming off that 10-day break after beating the New Orleans Saints. They have the number 1 offense in the league. The Washington football team have turned their season around 4 in a row after starting 2-6, and some pretty reasonable scalps in that. The Bucks and the Raiders are probably the most accomplished of those teams.
Yeah, well, outside of Chase Young, they're starting to get healthy. Anton Gibson's been playing really well. They get Curtis Samuel finally back in the squad.
Unfortunately, young gun Logan Thomas, who just was battling a hammy and had been back for 2 games, I think he's done his ACL.
Confirmed. I saw that during the week. Yeah, that's season done.
Very sad for the young tight end.
And I think, who was it? I think it was one of the Seahawks running backs. No, it was Kenyon Drake. I think he's done his ACL as well from a hip. From like a hip drop tackle. I think Logan had something similar happen to him.
We've seen in the rugby league the hip drop tackle getting, scrutiny.
Yeah.
It's a hard one because it's like we've spoken before. That's kind of a classic tackling technique. Like if you're grabbing onto a 230-pound man, the best way to bring them to the ground is to drop your weight.
Yeah. I think in the NRL, it's probably easier to officiate because usually with the way the tackles happen, as a guy does a hit up, a few guys in there, and then you've got your third dude in there who then comes in and does the hip drop. Whereas the NFL, it's usually bang bang plays, guy coming across the middle. You're grabbing him the best way you can, and maybe you're going to get occasionally the hip drop, like it's going to happen.
It's a very grey area for mine. You don't want guys doing their ACLs. I understand that. The counter argument is that it's a contact sport, and that's a very efficient way of bringing someone to the ground. Be interesting to see what happens.
Having said that, they did remove the horse collar because it had been, Roy Williams, safety for Dallas Cowboys, breaking a lot of legs back in the day.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. That's a very different motion. Grabbing a guy by the back of their neck and throwing them to the ground,
and riding them down essentially onto the back of their legs. So.
Compared to something which is pretty close to a good tackling technique.
Yeah, well, like I said, in the quick time framing succession of like the bang bang play of a guy, you essentially just grabbing him and then trying to take him down, and that could end up being a hip drop tackle. I think it'd be very, very hard to try to officiate that out of the game,
especially what we've seen this year with taunting and the over officiating, and perhaps. Again, we get the reasoning behind it, but perhaps the helmet kind of stuff as well, possibly over officiated. I'd hate to see a new rule come in. Shout out to Logan Thomas. I hope his recovery goes well, but I wouldn't like to see the game, try to make a new rule out of that one.
We don't want NRL magic round. Let's say that.
that's for sure. But anyways, let's go back to this game. It's a huge NFC East matchup. It is in Washington. Does anyone think the football team can? Yeah, I like it. I like that.
I haven't got a heap of upsets. I think I've got of the upsets I've gone are all home teams, and I think Washington at home coming off 4-win streak, finding their mojo. Cowboys have been a bit up and down of late.
Yeah.
Michael Parsons has been excellent for them,
hasn't he? Yeah. So, Trayvon Diggs got another one last week.
So and for that reason, the offense maybe not clicking as well as I thought it would.
Their running game seems to struggle. That Tony, the numbers were inflated against the Saints because Tony Pollard had that massive run, but outside of that, they really struggled to move the ball.
Yep.
Zeke Elliott looks like he's playing kind of busted up. He looks like he's playing.
Oh, he's definitely busted up. He's got all the kinds of
playing through some pain. I've gone the other way. I've gone the Cowboys, but I think this will be a close...
You think their record, where they're at, like
sure.
They're their team, you look at it, you're like, they're going to play playoffs. They should do Washington easy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Washington just has a bit of mojo at the moment.
And I like that you did that because I was looking at this and I was like, I hope we don't all pick the Cowboys. I hope someone picks Washington here. And I know you've got a little bit of vested interest as well.
Yeah.
Having a few.
Well, you blokes all picked you picked all the Bills last week and I picked the Patriots. So fuck you guys.
Excuse me. Check the tape here. I think I'd pick the Patriots.
Well, you didn't pick that in your tips because you had that wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we both had the Bills.
Yeah. Check the tape.
Patriots. Wait, yeah, Bills. Yeah.
Anyways. Check the tape. I say a lot of shit.
Anyway, Monks, who did you pick? In this game?
Yes, I have picked the Cowboys as well. They are favourites.
So this is too short. I would not be touching this head to head. Let the listeners know, Monks.
All right. Well, apparently too short at $1.47. The football team are out at $2.71 at the moment. We have a line of 4.5. Total match points of 48.
Yeah, that's too short.
Yeah.
I don't like any
Especially
of that.
when you look at that line as well.
Yeah, but very very interesting matchup.
48 though.
You like the overs?
I don't. Yeah, potentially the way the Washington be playing at the moment, I think they'll score 20.
Shout out to Taylor Heineke. He's been more than just a game managing quarterback. He's been a pretty good quarterback. If the season were to finish this weekend, the football team would be in the playoffs. They're currently the 6th seed in the NFC, so an enticing matchup there.
So just quickly on that, 6 of Washington's last 7 games have gone unders total match points.
That defense.
Well, they come Cowboys though. That's the difference. I think Washington. They'll score their 20 odd, but can they keep Cowboys to 20? Maybe not. And it'll be 30 points, which means Washington have to chase a bit of points, which leads me to more to overs than to unders.
You know what else sucks to bet on? Unders, overs.
Oh yeah,
it's so hard. Like today, I took the unders. The Steelers' stout defense. Inverted commas.
You were looking good for most of the match, and then fourth quarter.
And then the Steelers on offense haven't shown much. They've averaged 20 points on offense. They went out and scored 28. Yep. Unders, overs. It's a flip of a coin, really. And then anything which is weather related. I'd leave the unders, overs alone.
I mean, scientists can't even get the weather right.
So. Fucking idiots. Anyways, don't need another Bureau of Meteorology rant. That was hard to string together. A possibly less enticing matchup is the Jacksonville Jaguares. That's Jaguars in Spanish. Take on the Tennessee Titans. The Jags, they looked very ordinary last week against the Rams. The Titans are coming off the bye. A little bit of a tidbit. Derrick Henry is still 3rd in the NFL for rushing yards. He has missed 4 games now, thanks to that fracture in his foot. Bit of a clash, I suppose, between Dontrell Hilliard and Deonta Foreman. You'd imagine they probably pound the rock there. No AJ Brown. I imagine we all have picked the Titans. The Jags did pull up an unbelievable upset of the Bills a few weeks ago. I do feel like that's a bit of an anomaly.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Titans by, I won't say a lot because they're going to have to run the shit out of the ball, but they'll still win this easy.
I agree. Titans, odds and line, please.
I think total points in this will be pretty low.
Pretty low. We'll see. So Titans are favourites at $1.21. The Jaguars are out at $4.45 at the moment. We have a line of 8.5. Total match points of 43.5.
I like that line. I'd take the Titans. I don't know about their unders, overs if the Jags can score enough points. They've really struggled on offense.
No,
they've really struggled to score points.
And they benched Robinson for 20 plus snaps after a fumble. So Urban Meyer, don't fumble his football. Denzel Washington vibes from remember the Titans. Petey Jones, sit on the bench.
You fumble that football, you run a mile, and then I'll put my foot up your ass, something like that.
Yeah. So next match we got the Seahawks taking on the Houston Texans. Seahawks probably got back to the right of the ship a little bit. Russell, of course, looking very rusty. Now looking like a classic kind of danger. Russ did break their 3-game losing streak against the 49ers with that win. Their D played well. Had a couple of picks. Texans, on the other hand, are Texans, and they got absolutely smoked by Jonathan Taylor and the Colts.
They got
Colts. Sorry.
They got tailored.
Yeah.
They got tailored. That's going to be a verb. It's like getting Henried. I think that we have to make that. Is that a verb? It's a verb. Are they the worst
English
team?
On The Esky.
Are they the worst team in football? From what I've seen of late, I think they're worse than Detroit.
Talent-wise, yeah. Lions have been pretty unlucky with games that they potentially could have won.
Yeah. They nearly beat the Baltimore Ravens, for fuck's sake. Everyone for the longest field goal of all time. This is a toilet bowl of the week. I don't think we want to spend too much time on this.
I've gone Hawkies.
Seattle should get the job done. Obviously not the old Seattle, but should beat this Houston Texans team.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, yeah. So they are favourites at $1.23 at the moment. Houston are out at $4.20. We have a line of 8.5 and total match points of 41.5.
Very low line there.
That takes us into the Raiders and taking on the Chiefs in another divisional battle in the AFC West. Mm-hmm. Chiefs did get their win over Denver last week to take the number 1 spot in the AFC West clearly. And the Raiders, of course, lost to the Washington football team.
Close one.
And I think the Chargers lost last week too, didn't they?
No, they beat the Bengals.
They beat Bengals. That's right. So Chiefs are taking a slight lead in that division. I mentioned before, Kenan Drake did his ACL, so he's done. Perhaps it looks like your Raider-based fantasy team has been doing you a bit of a solid lately.
Josh Jacobs and Hunter Renfro did an absolute job. Josh Jacobs, they're very similar players in that they have a very low ceiling. They're never going to go out there and get you 38 points, but they've got quite a high floor. They're quite consistent.
Yes.
So any fantasy owners of those two out there would have been impressed. I think they both posted 20 plus. The Chiefs had a scrappy win, I thought, against your Broncos. Didn't do too much on offense.
Denver's D's been playing pretty elite.
They have been really good.
They're third in total points scored, and they showed it. They kept
they kept Travis Kelce to 27 yards and Tyreek Hill to 22 yards.
Yeah, 5 total catches between the two of them. So
the last time that happened would have been a long time ago, if not ever. I won't make you look that up.
Yeah. We'll talk about Denver when we get to the Denver's bit, but it didn't matter. They still won that game in the end. Do I think the Raiders are going to go into Arrowhead in December and win this game? No. I pick the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree. But it's not the same Kansas City. It's not. It's not last year or the year before's Kansas City.
Their defense has been playing better. They have firmed up in the last month.
Their defense has gone actually like a long way in the right direction, but their offense is just...
Mahomes throw another pick in this.
Yeah, people are working them. The defensive coordinators, the other teams are working out this Chiefs offense.
And here's a shout out to Chris Collins for actually doing a good job in commentary. Kind of showed...
Oh, Collins were...
Yeah, kind of showed...
Now, here's a guy.
Yeah, well, he kind of made the point with Mahomes that his sidearm action and the way he throws the football, maybe he's gone too far in that direction, as in he's gone away from his
regular releases to sidearm.
Exactly, and he goes to the 3/4 kind of release where, it's the quick throw versus the actual proper, traditional throw you would be accustomed to, a la, say, what Tom Brady does on a regular basis. That maybe he's got himself into a mode where he's, ends up taking more risks than he probably should, which has led to more picks this year, and then he maybe needs to get back to the focus on your 3-step, your 5-step drop, and your quick release versus moving around trying to throw sidearm or quick throws, which get you into those riskier situations. Hey, he did win an MVP and a Super Bowl. I was
seeing an interesting analysis for a guy that really did nothing in the NFL on one of the guys that's one of the most talented guys ever.
Yeah.
But I can see what you mean.
Yeah, but
what he means.
Yeah, like instead of that being a low percentage of his throws, it's now a high percentage of, if 50% of his passes are like that, then that's a lot more risk taking.
But how much is that Patrick Mahomes and how much is that his offensive line just having him under?
Well, they're talking about
duress?
the rookies, the centre, I think Creed Humphrey, and
apparently he's been really good. Yeah,
I can't remember
there is another one.
It was one of their guards has been really good, and they the guy they got from the Patriots. Tooney or something like that plays left guard, so it would be their right guard. The other rookie.
Joe Tooney, something like that.
Yeah, so they've got some good talent there. So it's whether just Mahomes is spending too much time trying to make a decision and then ends up falling into the flashier side of the play versus you just take the quick slant and get it out there, or whatever it is. Maybe something to watch. Either way, I still think the Chiefs win this game because Chiefs.
I agree. The Chiefs are 8-4. There's a lot of conjecture.
I don't think they win the Super Bowl this year. They'll make playoffs. I think there's some other better teams in the league currently.
That's interesting. Anyways, we're not talking about the Super Bowl. We are talking about the Chiefs and the Raiders. Amongst your tip and the odds, I think Kansas is a little bit short there. Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, it's interesting. Kansas City are favourites $1.20. Raiders are $4.60 at the moment. We have a line of 10 and total match points of 47.5.
I'd see.
We got to remember Kansas City, December, Arrowhead.
They're pretty good. Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're pretty good, but it could also be windy and snowing. So they might score points. The other team may not. So I wouldn't touch any of the points related bets in that one. Saints Jets.
The Saints are on a 5-game losing streak. Do you remember? You would have remembered, a month and a half ago when they went out and beat the defending Super Bowl champions. In
Or
the
they started the season and beat
Buccaneers.
Green Bay, like smoked them.
Smoked them. They haven't looked like the same team since then. They're coming off a 10-day break. They had the Thursday night football loss to the Cowboys. I personally, I picked them up because the Bills are taking the Buccaneers this weekend. So I'm hoping the Saints defense can kind of find their mojo, rekindle some of that early spirit. The Jets lost to the Eagles. They weren't too bad. Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore, finding a little bit of chemistry. We did mention last week Michael Carter is on IR with that high ankle sprain. He will remain on IR for the foreseeable future. Tevin Coleman getting the snaps there.
I think Coleman's been injured to start the week, and so is Moore. Moore hasn't. I know Moore definitely hasn't trained this week.
They're questionables.
Yeah, both questionables at this point.
On a Friday night going into Sunday games in America, what does questionable mean?
yeah. They've got plenty of time to get it. Friday practice is still ahead.
Means about as much as those ICC cricket rankings, I reckon.
Yes.
Three Saints.
Yeah,
Anyone game?
I did consider it. I led towards the Saints in here because I just don't think Zach Wilson's there yet. Elijah Moore, the other guys, as mentioned, being banged up. I can definitely see the upset here happening with the way the Saints have been playing. But I think
the Jets beat the Titans. They're not horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, like, again, they're like kind of what the Lions are. They've got talent. They just haven't kind of all put it together yet, and they're a few pieces away from actually being a really good football team. But they can compete with these other teams. The Saints, on the other hand, I think have all of that talent. Probably held back with their quarterback play.
Yep.
Taysom Hill has been hot garbage and. The same.
Excellent athlete. Like some of the shit that he was doing, running the ball, hurdling blokes. You're like, wow. But
I think the Saints' chances probably rely on Alvin Kamara as the owner of Alvin Kamara on the end of the table.
Is he back?
Is he playing this
week? He must be.
Yeah, I think he's been listed as back.
That's huge.
Yeah,
Saints.
NFL has got
to
him
me
projected to play.
That swings it very much in Saints.
Because
I think so.
He's a freak. I've gone the Saints too. A lot to be desired with Taysom Hill's arm talent. That is for sure.
Well, if you want to run the RPO with Taysom Hill and have him hold the ball occasionally, having decoy or potential handoff Alvin Kamara changes the defensive strategy
massively. So. And I'll be hard pressed to remember a quarterback in recent memory that runs the ball as he doesn't have that elite speed. He's not like a Lamar Jackson. He's more like a Tim Tebow, if you will.
I think he's probably more like Dak is.
Yeah.
So as in a bigger size, he runs more than Dak is. But
I'd say more athletic even than Dak. But yeah, again, do you want your franchise quarterback out there? I think they ran...
Or your starting tight end, depending on what angle you go.
Well, there was a point where they ran 5 quarterback runs in a row. Like, do you want him taking those licks? I don't know. In this game, I think they get the job done. I think they break their losing streak. I think the Saints stay alive in the NFC South. That is my thoughts. Monks, what do the bookies think, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first I'll start off with, does this speak volumes about... Jameis Winston with the Saints?
He's good.
Yeah.
He's actually good. As much as people want to rip on him, 30 for 30.
So also another bloke off contract at the end of the year that potentially could be on the move.
Pittsburgh Steelers, baby. Anyway.
So always a shout.
We are talking about the Saints and the Jets. Let's
finish it off so we can move on.
All right, let's finish this off. All right, so I have gone Saints as well. They are favourites at $1.41. The Jets are out at $2.92 at the moment. We have a line of 5.5 total match points of 43, with a note here saying that 7 of the Jets' last 9 games have gone overs.
Ooh. Against Saints, though, I would think it'd be unders. But yeah, Jets likes good points. Anyway.
Don't bet on overs, unders.
Yeah, that's probably a rule we've learnt in this. So Falcons are then taking on the Panthers in another divisional battle, 5-7 for each of them.
Speaking of the NFC South, it's do or die for these guys. You have to win to stay alive. I would reckon pretty handy side in that division.
They're playing for second. Yeah, they're playing for second place. But they got to get in there. CMC, of course, is done for the year. He's on IR, which means Hubba Bubba is going to be their leading runner.
Chubba.
Falcons, of course, coming off.
How good's that name? Just quietly.
Yeah. Falcons are coming off their loss to the Bucks. Gage was their best with 11 reception for 130 yards. I don't know with this. This is a really odd one because Cam was shit last week. Let's be honest.
After looking hot, in that win against Arizona, you're like, oh, Cam's back, he's back. And then we kind of got New England Cam last week, didn't we?
Well, I think you got Cam Newton without CMC again. I think that's the big difference. Yeah. And for me, that's the difference in this. The Panthers without CMC have been hot garbage this year. So I've picked the Falcons for this one.
I have also gone the Atlanta Falcons. No one expected them to do much this year. They may win this game and stay alive in the NFC race. Anyways, you don't see either of these teams bothering anyone in January, so may as well just get through it. Mikey's he's just doing a little bit of 50-50 coin flipping over there, if you will. Who'd you land on?
It landed on the Falcons, so I think I just cursed that game.
Nice. Carolina win by 30. What are the odds? The bookies have got the Panthers ahead.
They do. So Panthers are favourites at $1.71, only just with the Falcons sitting at $2.14 at the moment. We've got a line of 2.5 total match points of 41.5.
Low.
It is low, but what did we say with the previous one?
Don't bet under overs.
So speaking of a game that went unders last time was the Ravens taking on the Browns, but historically they played that 70-point game the year before.
They did.
So big AFC North matchup. Interesting, I think the Ravens played... No, I think the Browns played the Ravens, had the bye, and now have the Ravens again.
Yeah, come around quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they haven't played any other team in between.
And that was that game that the Ravens won with Lamar throwing 4 picks.
Yes. Yeah, and Ravens, of course, coming off their 1-point loss to the Steelers, as we mentioned last week. What do we think here? Because my thoughts, and we've said this in the past, you learn the most in a loss. They did have the bye to also digest all of that. They are at home. And with the way Lamar's been playing in recent weeks, I have picked Cleveland. Okay, because I think Ravens, though they're 8-4, they will play playoffs. Lost their mojo a little bit. And I think against the Steelers, you saw some of their frustration in that. Lamar throwing picks or trying just throwing Hail Marys, down to Mark Andrews. We're just hoping he's down there somewhere. He'll catch it. They're kind of struggling in offense. They don't really have the running back talent they were hoping coming into the season.
No. But they also lost 2 running backs at the start of the year.
They lost Humphrey as well in this game against
Marlon
the
Humphrey,
Steelers.
former Pro Bowler.
I think ACL for him as well, season done. So, Ravens are very banged up. And you got to remember, they only beat the Browns by 3 points?
Yeah, it was close.
It was close? So I think Browns... they did play bad. They will say, hey, we didn't take the opportunities. But the Ravens haven't really done anything in between that. We've gone away, studied. That's why I think they're going to come in and win.
I really like where your head's at. This one is hard to split. I have gone the Baltimore Ravens. I'm just not convinced on that Cleveland Browns team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Great running game. I just don't know about Baker and his receivers. But
his shoulder's cooked. So.
Yeah, definitely needs surgery after the season finishes. But this a big home game here for Cleveland. Pittsburgh losing today helps them out. Cincinnati lost last week, and fuck, how good's the AFC North? They're all in there with a sniff. I've gone the Ravens without much confidence.
Yep.
So the Ravens do have the hoodoo over the Browns. They've won the last of their 4 matchups, and they beat them 6 points the other week. That being said, Lamar Jackson is also leading the league in sacks at 37. He's coming second to Joe Burrow with pass interceptions sitting at 13 at the moment.
It's not MVP Lamar this year, is it?
No, it's a bit rough. That being said, I've gone the Browns as well. They are favourites heading into the game, $1.67. Ravens are sitting at $2.21. We've got a line of 2.5 and total match points of 42.5.
Interesting value there for a team that's 8-4.
Yeah, I was going to say 220.
Yeah. But as per what we've just discussed, who really knows there? AFC North hotly contested at the moment, as are many of the divisions in the NFL. Let's move into the late games on Sunday. Sean, your Denver Broncos take on the Detroit Lions. They've got to win, baby. They're off the nudie run. DeAndre Swift, Monks, can you chase him up? Last I saw, he's listed as questionable, so who the fuck knows? You catch much of the Broncos game? Yep.
Yeah, I got to watch this game. So, defense excellent, special teams terrible, offense also terrible. Outside of Javonte Williams, that is who
he has been a shining light, hasn't he?
Yeah, I said it to Monks last week. He's got the most rush yards for a running back without a start. So
Yep. Well, that was his first
that
one.
was his first
with
start,
Melvin
so-
Gordon out of it. He had 102 yards on the ground and involved in the passing game, 76 receiving yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, big
He leads the league in broken tackles.
Broken tackles. Yep.
Look,
I think Melvin Gordon's though back training, and it was interesting. I think Melvin was saying today, he's like, because he's off contract, he's like, "Hey, I'd love to stay in Denver. I don't think the fantasy football fans would like me to stay." Of course, free Javonte Williams has been trending, I think, for quite a while.
but
hey,
that dual headed.
well, they're the only
it
team.
works, man. It works.
Yeah, Denver's the only team with 2 rushes over 500 yards.
Exactly, and they're doing the best of it. But it's a formula, man. Like the Cowboys with Zeke and Pollard, with the Packers with Dillon and Jones. You can have 2 really good running backs and just keep them fresh and interchange them.
Yeah, well, Melvin Gordon had been taking the lead kind of role as a 60-40, so I wonder after last week they might switch that a little bit.
He's really good. He's a steal in the draft, Javonte Williams. Denver drafted really, really well. Look...
back to this game. They should beat the Lions.
They should, and they will. I'm pretty confident there.
It'd be a very Denver thing to lose to them. But
well, like Minnesota last week, we were all confident that they'd get the job done. But
I think defensively, we should be able to, very much handle the Lions in this one, even if Swift plays. I really like what Denver's doing defensively. Of course, offensively, they really need a good kick in the pants there. We'll have to see what Teddy does. I think Teddy threw 2 picks in that game, or maybe even 3. Think about it, against Kansas City.
2, but one was a intercept
Pick
return
6.
touchdown for Dan Sorensen.
Which doesn't help. If your defense is keeping the scores low, keeping Kansas City to 22 points, that's a win by any account.
Yeah.
But when, that's coming from, 7 points are coming from the offensive side, it doesn't help. The offense then trying to chase down those low scores. So, anyway,
that is for sure.
I've picked Denver.
Denver here.
Yep, I've gone Denver as well. DeAndre Swift, he hasn't practiced yet. At very least, it looks like he would need to have at least 1 practice before he starts, so that will come down to their Friday practice.
Game day decision, perhaps.
Yeah. All reports is he's a bit of a long shot to play. Williams is probably going to be your best bet, fantasy-wise, I guess.
What are the odds saying? Because with Swift out, I would think he'd be heavily favoured towards Denver.
Yep, so they are favourites. Call it heavy favourites, $1.20.
Yeah, that's heavy.
I would say that's heavy.
Lions are $4.60 at the moment. We've got a line of 10, total match points of 42.5.
Don't like any gambling on that, to be honest. Another game which I am unsure gambling-wise, 49ers take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Both teams lost last week. for the Seahawks and the LA Chargers. 49 is a little bit of a shock loss. They have been really poor, actually, in that matchup against Pete Carroll and his Seattle Seahawks in recent years. Tell you who was good, George Kittle. 9 catches, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He's been excellent since he's got back from his injury.
His balance, when he catches the ball and absorbs that first shot,
Hates being tackled.
more often than not, he's the one that stays on his feet and keeps going. And it's nice to see because there's probably a little bit of an underwhelming start of the year from George Kittle. We know what he's capable of, probably up there with Travis Kelce on talent. Just the injuries and, situations hadn't really seen him be able to display that talent. So really nice to see him go absolutely bananas last week, even if it was in a loss. And I tell you who else was going bananas? T. Higgins. He had 9 catches, 138 yards, a touchdown, back-to-back fantasy games with 20 points. I think people are starting to realise Jamar Chase is pretty fucking good.
I think he did. I think Chase might have dropped a potential deep touchdown.
Yeah, he did. He did. So some of that preseason chat coming out.
Yeah, but
I think that's a bit of noise, really.
Well, I think coverage-wise, he's definitely getting a lot more coverage his way. He's been a bbit quiet in the last month.
He has, yeah.
To the point, I think Mac Jones is kind of firmed as Rookie of the Year favourite. Javonte Williams kind of entering that chat a little bit too for the league kind of running back. Or Najee Harris, of course, is in that conversation as well. So there's some other guys now kind of moving ahead of Chase in that conversation. Rookie of the Year. I think Mac Jones and what he's doing. Stat-wise, 2 for 3 probably doesn't help his chances, but winning football games, he's definitely
That always helps. Always helps.
So, which, as you said, frees up T. Higgins. What do you think for this game? I just don't like the 49ers for whatever reason. They're missing something.
Yeah, I agree. They're not that same 49ers that made a Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I think Elijah Mitchell... Eli Mitchell, is also...
That's his name.
Yeah. He's banged up, I believe.
Going into it, he'll be a questionable. He's probably not worth looking up. It'll be a game day decision in a few days. But I like this.
Towards the Bengals.
Paul Brown Stadium, I think the Bengals get this job done and make that AFC North really spicy. I'll go Cincinnati too.
Yep. Max?
Interesting.
This is interesting.
Yeah, I've gone Cincinnati as well. That being said, we've all picked the underdogs here at $2.06.
The underdog.
Yeah, only just.
What are the... Keep going.
Yeah, all right.
The underdog.
Oh, yeah, the underdog.
What are the Niners paying?
49ers are $1.77. That being said, we do have a line of 1.5 and total match points of 48.5.
Yep, don't like any of that. In what will probably be one of the matches of this week, the Bills do take on the Buccaneers. The Bills sitting in an interesting spot at 7-5. Buccaneers up there with 9-3. We mentioned it before. Bills copped to Belichick, and I think Belichick's probably firming as coach of the year at this rate.
Hard to argue against him.
Yeah, with the job they're doing. So kind of putting the point that, Belichick and Brady, they are both good, even if they aren't together. They're both GOATs, as we expected.
Interesting memes as well last week about Bill Belichick beating the Bills. He's so good they named the team after him.
Yeah. The Bucks, on the other hand, they keep rolling on. I think Tom Brady is favourite for MVP as well.
Which is fucking nuts.
Yes. They've got all the weapons. Regular season Lenny is, having a great year.
Isn't he? Yeah.
Chris Godwin, AB goes out with his fake vaccination and Chris Godwin fires. Like, they've got so many weapons there. Gronk's been good since back. He's got 2 tutters. I think I went Bucks in this.
I think the Bucks get it done.
Yeah, they keep rolling.
The Bills, I know we spoke about it earlier, but they just don't seem like the Bills of last year. They can't run the ball. They're dropping games that you wouldn't expect them to drop. Jacksonville being the blatantly obvious
They'll come out in this one and score 40 points.
Possibly.
Josh Allen's slinging the rock around.
Yeah, look, against that...
He'll throw the ball 50 times, I guarantee.
Yeah, he will.
Game.
Because they can't run the ball. They can't run the ball. And against that Bucks front seven, most people struggled, or most teams struggled to run the ball.
Yep.
I've gone the Bucks here. Shootout would be interesting. I'd like to see a shootout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've obviously gone Bucks as well. That our favourites $1.57. The Bills are out at $2.41 at the moment. We've got a line of 3. Total match points 53.5.
It's quite high. Quite high. Don't bet the unders overs. It's hard. It is hard.
So we then have the Giants taking on the Chargers in the next match. The Giants are coming off a loss against the Finns, who have actually been ascending a little bit.
Yeah, 5 in a row.
Yeah, Gannon got the start. Monks, can you find out who's starting for us this week for the Giants? They have been really struggling to score points. They've got no skill position players. Saquon's back.
Back.
But everyone else is kind of banged up. The offensive line is hot garbage. The Chargers, on the other hand, they have the COVID. Keenan Allen got COVID, and then Mike Williams and Chris Harris both on the COVID list.
Who's vaccinated there, do you know?
So Keenan Allen vaccinated by all accounts. Williams and Harris not. So those two will definitely miss the game.
Yep.
Allen potentially could come back in.
He needs two negative tests, is that right?
Back to back, and he'll be right to go. Of course, timing is going to be the issue. All three is a huge loss, really. Your top 2 receivers for Justin Herbert being out would be big against the Giants. They did look good against the Bengals.
Who is their third receiver? Guyton,
and I think Josh Palmer, their rookie, is the other one. So
yeah, not much experience there.
No, not at all. And they got old man Cook playing tight ends, probably the only other option. So expect, if that is the case, expect a lot of Austin Eckler and maybe some Justin Jackson, I think, coming in there as well. They look good against Bengals. They put up a lot of points. Herbert 300 plus with 3 tutters. I have picked the Chargers in spite of their COVID issues. Think, because I've got Keenan Allen as well, I hope Keenan Allen can play in this one. He's had a great month as well.
Yeah. 2 touchdowns last weekend.
So it'll be interesting to see what they look like without those. Otherwise, I'd be a little bit concerned, but they should still take care of the Giants, irrespective of that.
I agree. It's a great opportunity to take on the Chargers, with this COVID outbreak. But the Giants, as we mentioned, they're banged up themselves. Their offense is really struggling. Their last 3 weeks, 9, 13, and 10 points. I don't think they can score enough points to beat Los Angeles here. I've gone the Chargers. An interesting one, in terms of punting, because who knows who will play for the Los Angeles Chargers. But I still think, regardless, they get the job done. Yep. Who's starting? Have you got?
Yeah, so to that, the New York Giants are preparing Jake Fromm to start.
Oh, Jake Fromm. He's
The Fromm.
He's off that QB1 show. He was at Buffalo for quite some time. He's a Georgia boy.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him get the start. He's a big, strong bloke. Out of Georgia. He was sat behind Josh Allen for the last few seasons, so that'd be interesting if Jake Fromm gets the nod there.
Yeah, so they are prepping him. They are hoping, they're optimistic that Mike Lennon will still start for him. Obviously, with Daniel Jones still out with his neck injury. All that being said, my tip and odds probably reflect the woes of the Giants at the moment. So I've gone Chargers as well. Their favourites are $1.20. Giants are out at $4.60 at the moment. We've got a line of 9.5 and total match points of 43.
Bit too short, you would think, with the COVID outbreak there, but all 3 Chargers here. Sunday Night Football. One of the oldest rivalries in the NFL, the Chicago Bears take on the Green Bay Packers. Andy Dalton, he was pretty rubbish last week in the loss to the Cards through 4 picks.
To that point, I think Justin Fields is starting this week.
Oh, can you chase that up? Because that changes the game dynamic a little bit. David Montgomery's been a bit of a shining light since coming back from his injury in the last few weeks. He had 90 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 8 catches for 51 yards. Not normally used in the passing game. possibly a bit of that was game situation, trying to chase the Cardinals. The Green Bay Packers should be fresh. They're coming off the bye. Aaron Jones should be back after that MCL sprain. Devontae Adams should be ready to go. Up there in at Lambeau Field, the Green Bay Packers, you'd think, get the job done. I can't see any reason outside of my own personal bias. Outside of that, boys?
Yeah, I agree. Packers should win this game coming off the bye. I think the main interesting point is probably their running back situation with Dylan kind of taking the lead. I think Matt LaFleur came out during the week saying they're 1A and 1B. But the recent kind of couple of weeks has been the hot hand's been Dylan over Aaron Jones. So I'd be interested to see how they go in this one, how that workload kind of spits out.
Jones coming off an injury, I think they're great. I think they complement each other perfectly. You've got AJ Dillon, this unit. He's got some of the biggest quads,
I think
quads getting around, short yardage situation, strong as fuck.
And I think
then Jones is a bit more shifty, you know.
Well, I think this game probably leads more towards a grindy Dillon game with the Bears defense in their front seven. So it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a little bit more extra touches than AJ does.
Interesting. I've got both of them in different fantasy leagues. So I've got Dylan in one and Jones in the other. So kind of really rooting for both. As a Packers fan, I think it's great. I think they've got two guys that really complement each other. And Jones is established, and Dylan is just coming along in leaps and bounds. Amongst the odds, I imagine it's a Green Bay Packer tip for you.
Yep.
How short are they?
So before I get on to that, Field is starting. So he's been medically cleared for his ribs, so he's all good to go. Packers are favourites $1.14. The Bears are out at $5.75 at the moment, sorry. Handicap saw a line of 11.5 and total match points of 43 again.
That's very short. $1.14. You'd think the Pack get the job done. Remember the last time they played Aaron Rodgers? I own you. I own you. Saturday night football, we'll see what happens. Monday night football, on the other hand, sees two elite teams going at it. The NFC West leaders, the Arizona Cardinals, they're the number one seed in the NFC. They're 10-2. They take on the Rams, who are 8-4. The Rams coming off that shellacking of the Jags. Sony Michel.
Expected. They had to smack them.
Very good. Can you chase up Darrell Henderson's status? I had an absolute meal in my fantasy game, but luckily I got the win against the man on my left here. I picked up Sony Michel. I knew that Darrell Henderson was questionable. It was an 8 o'clock a.m. start over here in Australia. I thought I'll check it before then. I went to work, forgot about it. And Sony Michel went out there and scored like 26 fantasy points. Speaking of good fantasy performance, Cooper Kupp, 8 catches, 129 yards, 1 touchdown last week. He's listed as questionable. I hope it's just one of those more precautionary things.
Yeah, management.
Because it would be a shame if he misses out, because he's on track to break all kinds of records this week. Speaking of, he's the first player ever through 12 games to have 100 catches and 10 touchdowns. He does not have a single fantasy game with single-digit fantasy points. Congrats to anyone that drafted him. I think he was projected maybe, sort of 15 to 20 receivers.
Yeah, I feel bad for all those people who picked Bobby Trees over him.
Indeed. An absolute breakout year. Him and Matt Stafford absolutely teed it off. It's an extra game. If he stays healthy, he's going to break some records, you'd imagine.
Oh, easy.
The Cardinals, on the other hand, they got that win against the Bears. They didn't have to do too much on offense. Helps when Dalton's throwing you the ball more often to the guys in red. And the most encouraging thing, I suppose, for Arizona was Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins, both back.
And I think Chase Edmonds is not too far away as well. So, they're starting to get healthy at the right time of the year. I have picked the Cards with no real reason. I just like the Cards. I think the Rams...
Better record at home.
Yeah, I think the Rams the last month, besides beating, they should spank the Jags. That's a definite.
Sure.
but the games they played leading into that were uninspiring. So I've picked the Cards because I think they're kind of flat track bullies at the moment, the Rams. So I've picked them here to win this game, and probably an electric game with lots of points, hopefully, and an excellent Monday Night Football game with Peyton Manning having the Manning cast being excellent as always.
I've gone the upset. I've gone the Los Angeles Rams to upset the Arizona Cardinals. No real reason, like you said. They put away the bad teams. They've looked a little bit hair going against the good teams. Green Bay comes to mind a few weeks ago. Look, I think their offense is unbelievable. I think they've got the guys there on defense. Obviously, with your Aaron Donalds, your Jalen Ramseys. Am I confident in this? No. Will I put any money on this? No, outside of some kind of same game multi-iteration. Will I lose it? Yes. But am I fired up to see this on a Monday Night Football matchup? Often Monday Night Football can be a little bit lackluster. This is fire. Can't wait to see it. Two teams that you'd imagine to see go deep in the playoffs.
Yep.
That's it, yeah. Quickly on Darrell Henderson, he is limited in practice. Trending in the right direction, but probably seems like a game day sort of situation there.
Again,
Sonny Michelle, get around him. PlayStation.
Well, like you said, if they make it deep in playoffs, so Cam Akers is a shout to actually
come back. Really, I did not know that.
Yeah,
only playoffs though, and it'd be deep in the playoffs.
Deep, sure.
Yeah, fair. Back to the odds. Cards are favourites $1.72. The Rams are $2.13 at the moment. We've got a line of 2 and total match points of 51.5.
It's reasonably close. Close.
A lot of points.
Yeah.
Again, we were saying it. Don't bet on the others.
Shootout in the desert, perhaps.
Yeah. To finish up the NFL notes, the teams on buys. We've got Finns, Eagles, and the Colts. Like I said before, the Finns have been doing well recently. I think
5 in a row.
Five in a row. The Eagles, they did have Minshew Mania, and they got their win. The Colts have potentially the MVP there with Jonathan Taylor. He's had an excellent run of form in the last, say, 6 weeks. And that Colts team healthy, they've been really good, winning a lot. I don't think they're going to capture, chase down Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady will end up winning his MVP, which leads into the next point with the Pats. They also have the bye 9-4. Potentially could have Bill Belichick taking on Tom Brady Super Bowl. That I think would be great for the headlines, and it would be so juicy, very interesting to see.
There was some ESPN stats predictor or something which had this as the most likely Super Bowl matchup, which is wild to think of. Again, take that with a grain of salt. We've still got 6 regular season games to go.
A lot to happen, plus playoffs. So
14, 15, 16.
Hey, it's in
five
it's
to go.
February.
It's a long way to go. It's a long way to go, but that comes into the realm of possibility. Boys, let's do something that we don't often do and talk about some college football. We had championship games on the weekend. Hands on hearts. Don't watch heaps of college football. Try to get as much in as you can. It's hard with the busy schedules. SEC, the strongest division in college football. Georgia had the 1 seed. They lose to Alabama quite convincingly. Bryce Young had an absolute game. He's a shoo-in for the Heisman Trophy.
It's probably shout out as well to Alabama and their recruitment strategy, because they had 2 first-round wide receivers, then they had 2 first-round wide receivers, and looks like they're going to have 2 more first-round receivers. So
an absolute factory down there in Tuscaloosa. They've won 8 SEC championships since 2009, so that is 8 out of 12. They go deep. Georgia may get a revenge crack going through to the college football playoffs. Pac-12, 2 teams that we won't see go deep, but interesting to see the Utah Utes upset Oregon to win their first ever Pac-12. It was emotional because they'd made the Pac-12 champion game twice in 2018, 2019. They lost both of them. Some really good players to come out of the Pac-12. You don't probably tend to hear about him so much, given the SEC's dominance and, sort of Big 10, Big 12. But past MVPs of this game include Marcus Mariota, Christian McCaffrey, Sam Darnold, Byron Murphy we've seen have a lot of success defensively. Keep an eye out for Devin Lloyd. He was the MVP of this one. Linebacker, 7 tackles and a pick 6. In the Big 12, Baylor defeated Oklahoma State in one of the closer games of the weekend. Second championship for the Baylor Bears. It was the first championship appearance for Oklahoma State in a division that's been dominated by their arch rivals, the Sooners. Spencer Rattler on social media this week stated that he's applied for a transfer. He was the Heisman favourite going into this season.
He was favourite for the first round, number 1 pick as well in a draft. Pending a great year with potentially winning a Heisman. But how far he can fall.
Yeah, it's a year of football. Obviously, unbelievably talented. Lost the starting position. Be interesting to see where he ends up next year, how he goes about it. In the Big 10, Michigan destroyed Iowa. Their first championship in the playoff era. So you've got to go back to 1999, I think it was, since Michigan were champs. Absolute scenes last week when they beat Ohio State, who have dominated the Big 10. 110,000 people, the biggest stadium in America, not just in college football, in America, storming the field, singing a bit of Mr. Brightside. Jack Revolt would have been very proud of the efforts there. They'll be going deep in the college football playoffs. And Cincinnati.
Well, just finish on Michigan, and there was chat they were going to fire their head coach and Jim Harbaugh. He's done his job. I think that he needed a couple of years to do his recruitment, and they finally got to the point where, hey, they're super competitive now. Historical
powerhouse, and have really struggled. And hats off to Ohio State, who have dominated
big time.
Absolutely dominated the Big 10 for many, many years. But it wasn't their year at OSU. Michigan could be playing for a national championship. And the Smoky, the team that no one thought would go this deep, the Cincinnati Bearcats, they haven't lost a game. They won the AAC championship game. A little tidbit for us Australian here, their punter is a son of Dustin Fletcher. That's right, the 400-plus gamer for the Essendon Bombers. His young bloke, Mason Fletcher, is the punter for Cincinnati. He's 6'7", 230, and sends punts down. So, like his old man, possibly could have been an excellent AFL player.
Aren't they calling him punting god at the moment?
Yeah, he will get drafted. Nice scenes of him puffing on a big old stogie after the win, and the Bearcats going to
I think the Cincinnati head coach also got the College Football Coach of the Year award as well.
It's always been a good program. It's never been an elite program. So the fact that they're going to the Final Four is unbelievable. Boys, a lot of footage of this fake slide out of what's his name, Pickett, out of Pittsburgh.
Wanker.
Thoughts? It's bad sportsmanship in my eyes.
Yeah, there's two aspects of this. Having played a lot of defense, you played at the whistle as well. So they are taught hey, he's giving himself up. You're not meant to whack him.
Yep.
Because if they're going to do this on a regular basis, then Lamar Jackson's going to get heaters every week, and he's not going to be enjoying it. And he's already talked about, hey, I don't get enough rough in the passer calls as is. And blokes doing this kind of stuff is not helping his situation. I think, say, if you're going looking like you're going down, you got to either go down or call the play dead at that point, because the fake slide, everyone pulls up and then he runs it away. It's like an inverted whistle.
I agree. I think it's it maybe was, we talk about gamesmanship and sportsmanship. Maybe it was good gamesmanship. I think it was bad sportsmanship. There's
just put on a good.
Someone had to do it once. The other point is someone had to do it once. So he's the dude that's done it, and everyone's just like, all right, now we're going to sort
That's a flag. That's a flag. It was definitely a big hole in the rule book there. For our
you can't go both ways. You can't have you want all the protection, and then use that protection rules for your own benefit. Like,
Agreed, 100%. Lots of footage of guys sliding back in the day and absolutely getting belted by defenders. So that's why they kind of brought in the rule that once a guy starts to initiate going down, the defenders pull out. The defenders did the right thing there. And, I think Kenny Pickett has kind of...
taken the piss.
Yeah, he's played it to his advantage, but anyways, that is what it is. Get at us in the comments about what you think about that one. So the college football playoffs, it's a few weeks away.
I think it's in January,
Yeah, start of Jan. So it's interesting that it's already decided. Obviously, Alabama's there. They'll take on the underdogs in Cincinnati. Being a historic upset if the Bearcats can pull off a win there, and a huge matchup between Michigan and Georgia, two of the most followed teams in college football. We spoke before about the Wolverines, how they've it's been a long time coming. Their last natty was 1997. That was with Brian Greasy at the helm, with Tom Brady riding the pine, a bloke called Charles Woodson on the defensive side, the last defensive winner of the Heisman Trophy. And Georgia, who have really, been second fiddle to Alabama over the last few years. They had the number one rank going into last weekend. They kind of got a little bit embarrassed. They'll be looking for some revenge. They do have to get through the Wolverines first.
You should check out Jordan Davis, their defensive tackle.
Oh, I've seen him.
We won the award for best defensive tackle of the year. Big human being.
He's like pushing 400 pounds big.
Yeah, well,
like,
he's rated at 340.
They made him like coming out of high school. They like made him do cardio and shit, saying like, "Bro, you're too big. Like, we need you a little bit more." Well,
there's pictures with him with his defensive line mate, who's like 6'3".
Yeah, a huge
315.
A huge human being.
Yeah, a big human being, and he makes him look small. You're just like, oh my god, he's huge.
Check him out. He will be playing in the NFL. He's a massive,
big time nose tackle for the future.
That wraps us up.
Yes.
NFL and cricket 2.5 hours in. Let's go.
Which means I think we need to get stuck into some NBA. Boys, I'll let you take that away. I need to take a quick break.
So the top stories of the week, there was a record-breaking game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We have been kind of following the Thunder and Josh Giddey and, the rise of the young Australian rookie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his name will go in the history books on the team that copped the worst L ever in NBA history. It was a 73-point shellacking from the Memphis Grizzlies. 9 of their 12 players that got on the court hit double digits, an absolute team effort.
Wow.
Jaren Jackson top scored in that one with 27, and the biggest kind of embarrassment for the Thunder was Ja Morant, their best player for the Grizzlies. He didn't play. So they copped the biggest L ever in the NBA to a team missing their best player. Sad times for the Thunder. There was matchups of the best teams in the West and the best teams in the East taking each other on head-to-head this week. The Warriors, they finally broke the Suns' win streak at 18. They had back-to-back games. Golden State actually lost to Phoenix a few nights prior. Steph was a bit off that night. And then going into the game where the Warriors beat the Suns, no Devin Booker. So a little bit of an asterisk, a little bit of a caveat there. And we don't have to wait too long before they'll face each other again. They go at it on Christmas Day. Fingers crossed, all things goes to plan. We might see Devin Booker back, and we might see Klay Thompson in that game for the two best teams in the NBA. That is true, but also the two leaders in the West. Yep. Speaking of the East, the Bulls and the Nets went at it. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, very good for the Bulls, topping the Nets. Did see Kyrie Irving has said that he's open to the suggestion of a vaccine that's plant-based. this week. I don't want to laugh too much. He's an excellent basketballer, but I don't know. I just don't know what goes on between those years.
He's a flat earther as well.
I know that. Yeah, I do. And,
he's an intelligent human being. Come on.
look, Uncle Drew putting on the putting on the makeup, going down the fucking local courts, lighting up people dressed as his grandpa. That's hilarious. Like, that's great shit. That's good stuff. But yeah, it's hard to get around the bloke of the last 12 months.
Who cares? As long as he's not there, Paddy Mills is doing bits.
It's good.
So,
It's
Paddy
good.
Mills.
Joe Harris has been hurt. Paddy's been getting a lot of minutes there for the Nets. And the Bulls, no one saw them going, as well as they are. So shout out to them. Obviously, good recruiting, getting DeRozan over there, and Zach Levine. He's a superstar. I think you can say it now. Speaking of superstars, Bam Adebayor, he's torn a ligament in his thumb. Doesn't seem like much, but tends to be an injury, especially with anyone that has to use their hands at length.
Yeah. Hands are super important in the NBA.
Indeed, and they're kind of important in life, if you will, Sean. But of course, in the NBA,
Well, you see some NBA fights where they choose to throw kicks instead of punches for that reason because they know their hands are that important.
Australia versus Philippines
Yes.
comes to mind.
Yeah, and everyone
there.
else in the Philippines as well.
That's right. So that's a big blow for the Heat. Who they're going good. They're fourth in the East. They did have the return of the Joker to Miami this week. He got booed heavily. I don't know. I still don't think there was too much of that. Like, it was a dog shot, obviously, a few weeks ago, but he was definitely, sort of baited into it. Let's have a look at the standings here, monks. The NBA will take more prominence in our podcast in the weeks coming through January and February as the NFL dies off. We're sort of like just past a quarter. Nets and Bulls 1 and 2 in the East, followed by the Bucks and the Heat. The Wizards and the Cavaliers continue to impress. And then the current teams in the play-in position would be the 76ers, Hawks, Hornets, and Celtics. The Knicks, Raptors, Pacers not out of it. And I think you can put a line already through the Magic and the Pistons.
Yep.
We've spoken about Golden State and Phoenix. They are leaps and bounds ahead.
Before you move into
West.
there, just on the Pacers. So Ben Simmons watch Pacers and Portland are the two kind of favourites for that potential trade.
Where would you like to see him end up out of those two?
Maybe more Portland to play. I've forgotten his name off the top of my head.
Dame and CJ McCollum there.
Yes.
He probably doesn't play guard, but like they might play like a 3-guard kind of set, or just use him like his body suggests, and he could be like a small forward.
Yeah, I think for both of them, their issues have been defense related. So, hey, Ben Simmons is an elite defender, so could be a good get and a excellent kind of value to add into those two teams.
Well, we just want to see him on the court. We've got his fucking jersey hanging up there.
Well, it won't be that colour any
No, it shan't.
further,
But
so.
also those jerseys up there, one's retired. His jerseys doesn't look like that no more, and his jersey don't look like that.
And neither do
no
the bottom
more.
two down there
And
as well.
Yeah,
so.
they're out of shot.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that is the NBA. Look, week by week, you just kind of follow it at this stage.
Yeah.
For mine, it's always been this time of the year, the NFL is heating up. It's getting really serious. And then January, February roll through and you start going, all right, what's happening here?
So go back over the
Yeah.
West, and like you said before, we've got the two prominent teams
Far
there.
ahead. The Jazz are looking good. Rudy Gobert putting his hand up again for Defensive Player of the Year. Probably the surprise of the year is the Memphis Grizzlies. We did speak about them smoking the Oklahoma City Thunder just before. The Clippers and Mavs, and then again the disappointing Lakers. But speaking of disappointing and undercover disappointing, I suppose because of the smaller market, the Denver Nuggets are just sitting there just below 500. After last year's efforts, you'd think that they would be, a little bit further up there. Again, it's early days. I can't imagine them, really struggling. Shout out to the Timberwolves, who have been really, really stinky the last few years. They're in ninth. They're pushing it. Karl Anthony Towns is an elite tall. So we'll just keep an eye on the NBA. until we sort of get a little bit closer to the business end of the year, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's it.
So that, I think we'll finish up NBA chat, which means we need to move over to the round football in the soccer. And I think the big news was Cristiano Ronaldo got his 800th goal.
Yeah, that's right. 800.
800.
800. I thought that's not a typo.
Yeah.
That is club and country.
Club and country. I think it was some footage as well came out when he got to 400 as well. And they asked him questions like, what can you do from here? And it's just like, well, hopefully the next 400 are quicker. Like, yeah. And everyone's just like, they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, he's done it. He's gone out there and he's scored his 800th goal for Man U over their win over Arsenal, who, if you bring up the table, have kind of moved around a little bit. Oh, we'll get to the EPL in a minute after we go through the Champions League.
Have. Did you guys see? It was an interesting game against Arsenal. It was in last week's matchups, if you will, because they played 3 days apart.
Yeah.
But De Gea got stepped on by Fred. It's always fucking Fred. Don't get even started on Fred.
Yeah.
But he went down, and then Arsenal banged a goal.
Yeah, from like this,
and that all the United players are blowing up. Oh, our keeper is down. Our keeper is
he's
down.
Injured.
That's play on. If it's your own player that stepped on in, you've gone down, it's a different story. It's a different argument. Suppose it's an Arsenal player that's, because that's a foul. If someone has stepped on your keeper and he goes down, that's a foul. But if it's your own player, that's play on. And the United boys were up in arms about it. Didn't cost them in the end. They came back and got the win against the Gunners, who are having their own struggles of their own. But look, Ronaldo, 800 goals. Obviously, there's always going to be the argument, Ronaldo versus Messi. We could start our own. You could start your own podcast and talk about it.
I think we talked about last week the award that Messi won. That Ronaldo was a little bit not happy about how the process of the voting for that goes.
Robert Lewandowski should be very upset about that. We'll get to Bayern in a sec. But yeah, Ronaldo, you watch a bloke and love or hate him, you just have to appreciate that you're watching one of the best, if not the best footballers of all time. Congratulations on 800.
Big time. So Champions League, round of 16 has been decided. Monks, do you want to bring the groups up if you please? I think the big news, as we alluded to before, was Barcelona missing out for the first time since 2005. Of course, is it the first time they haven't had Messi in the side for them?
It might be. It might coincide with it. You feel for Barcelona, the Catalans club. You feel for Xavi, kind of, given a rebuilding side. It's pretty hard to go deep, I suppose, after losing Messi and Suarez before him. However, if you do look at that squad, they're still pretty strong on paper with Memphis Depay and Sergio Busquets and the rest of them. You'd imagine that they should have got out of that group, but Benfica get the biscuits, they go through. There was 3 teams to go through the group stage without copping a loss or a draw, that being Liverpool, Ajax and Bayern, and all the English teams went through. So we mentioned Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Chelsea all go through to the round of 16. Our mates, Sheriff Tiraspol, they started off strong. They just sort of missed out there in Group D, 3rd place with 7 points. Shout out to the Moldovans. Far exceeded their expectations in a pretty difficult group. So well done on their Champions League debut. Monks, if you have got the odds there for the whole tournament, we did mention Liverpool, Ajax, Bayern not losing a game. You can't rule out guys like City, like PSG going deep. But for me, Bayern Munich are playing unbelievable football. Robert Lewandowski, we just spoke about him. I think it's fair to say probably robbed of the Ballon d'Or. I think he had something like 51 goals in 40 games in this calendar year. Yep. They made up a new award. It was kind of like a peace offering, I guess.
We're sorry.
A striker of the year for Lewandowski. He's in exquisite form, as are that Bayern Munich team. It is, look, at the end of the day, it's football. There's probably 6-7 teams that could win this. For mine, Bayern top that list. Monks, from our friends at Sportsbet, the odds, please.
Well, Sean, do you want to have a pick or anyone in mind?
Hard to say. I do like Liverpool. I think Real Madrid was still in there as well. PSG still floating around, aren't they? So yeah. There's still really great teams, and that's kind of the point.
True.
We've still got 16
champions.
Exactly. So any one of those can win, but I think Peps has kind of said Bayern's kind of been ahead of the rest. So
They're
far.
actually not the favourites, according to our friends at Sportsbet.
Who are the favourites, Mr. Mucky?
So the favourites are Man City, $4. Kind of expect that though, I guess.
Well on the way to winning another Premier League, so we'll talk about that in a minute.
We will talk about that in a minute. I don't think that's cut and dry just yet.
Not like it was last year, but it's
No, thank God. Thank God for that. Fuck. It was over in week 30 last year.
Yep. Outside of that, we've got Bayern Munich at $4.50. Next up, we do have Liverpool at $6. PSG is $6.50 there, and Chelsea is at $10, rounding out that top five.
Any of those teams could win it. It's football. So, all you need is one game where you put it together in a final. But if
score an early goal, hold on, and hey, make it through.
Did you have Ajax there? Because interesting that they didn't drop a point. Everyone always rules them out. They haven't. On paper, there's no reason why they should be as good as they are. They're well coached. They're disciplined. Ajax be interesting if they could go far. What are they, $15?
$15, yeah. Yeah, so just behind Chelsea. Man United's sitting at 15 as well, along with Real.
Very interesting. That draw should probably come out this week, if not the week after. Be interesting to see what happens there. Let's go back to England and talk about the week that was in the EPL. The biggest story, I suppose, was West Ham. Come on, you Irons. I saw Russell Brand. He's in his West Ham shirt celebrating. They got a win over arch rivals Chelsea. They're fourth. They're in European contention. They're 4 points ahead of Arsenal in fifth. It changed the whole dynamic because Chelsea were in one, so they dropped to 3. City and Liverpool jumped them. Liverpool putting away Wolves, City putting away Watford. Yep. Man, you have sort of steadily been going in the right direction. They're in 6th, I believe, and Tottenham and Norwich. Tottenham defeated Norwich 3-0. It's weird. I get a little bit of an English accent when we start talking about the EPL.
Well, you're saying English
Norwich.
names, so
Yeah, Norwich, Norwich. Russell,
that's a bit over the top.
Russell Brand.
Yeah.
That's shit.
Yeah, I think Newcastle got their first win.
They're still in the relegation zone.
Still relegation, but they did get their first win.
Them,
at least.
Burnley and Norwich staring down the barrel. Could you imagine the biggest takeover in English football history in terms of money spent? And imagine if they dropped out of the Premier League. That would be massive.
What are the
You
top
gotta
5?
rebuild.
What are the top 5 in that table? Just to go. I think you ran through it, perhaps.
City, Liverpool, Chelsea, all very close. Then a bit of a drop down to United. Spurs, United, Arsenal, Wolves, Brighton, Aston Villa round out the top 10 with Leicester and Everton nipping at the heels there.
Not quite at halfway yet, so there's still a lot of football.
And no, like you said, City are in the number 1 seat. Liverpool are a point behind them, so it's not kind of like last year where City just pulled out.
And Chelsea are a point behind them, so those 3 are going to be pretty competitive. And then, hopefully some of the other guys will move into that kind of conversation. I know Hammers fans will definitely be hoping they can finish 4th at least this year, so they can play some Champions League, then finishing 5th like they did the year before.
Yeah, it's been a long time, I reckon, since West Ham has been playing UEFA Champions League football. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
That will wrap up our soccer chat. Let's get into a massive final round. Ding, ding.
Yep.
That is also the sound for me to go for a quick wee. But if you wouldn't mind just taking a look back at Font versus Aldo, UFC on ESPN, quite an interesting card, if you would, Sean.
Yes, it was. And the note there. Plenty of upsets and finishes in this, but not a great night for the Aussies and Kiwis, unfortunately. There's a lightweight fight with the 40-year-old Clay Guido in this. He did submit his 41-year-old opponent in Santos. He was actually getting punished, pounded in the start of this first round, but he got the submission to get the win here. Of course, his 37th win from 58 fights. Man
crazy.
absolutely loves to compete in the cage.
That's it.
And been around a long time.
And Leonardo Santos is like a known grappler or wrestler, so to be able to submit him out the way he did, it's pretty spectacular.
Then probably the disappointing one for us Australian fans was the light heavyweight fight with Hill getting the KO over our Aussie Jimmy Crute in the first minute. Crute stepped right into this big right hand from Hill, and that was all he wrote. Hill did call out Paul Costa, which is kind of interesting because I think Costa's only come up once. No, he missed weight, and then they had to fight at light heavyweight. That's right. And then they're kind of forcing Costa to stay at light heavyweight. So that's kind of interesting. Johnny Walker then in the conversation is big step up, I'd say, for Hill. Both like low ranked in this one, whereas I think those other two would be in the up around the 5 range. Of course, big disappointing for Crute.
So Johnny Walker is sitting there at number 10.
Costa potentially not ranked, but I think Costa would be higher than that in that division.
Costa, because work his way up pretty quick. So Johnny Walker's no stretch. That'd make for a good fight, I think. But like you said, disappointing for Crute. With those back-to-back losses there. Yeah.
So, and I'm going to throw Monks on the bus before Peps gets back on. Can you say Raphael's name for me?
Fiziev.
There you go.
He did defeat Riddell with a wheel kick in this, interesting enough. Bit of an interesting character, born in Kazakhstan.
You're from Kazakh, like you. Grew up in Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah, and then fights out of Phuket. So,
well travelled.
What, he called out Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, that was the post match. He seems like one of those kind of like nice guys. Like he doesn't really want to call out anyone in the division. And then he looked back at his team and they're saying Vince Vaughn, and then he kind of has a laugh and he says, "I would like to fight the Vince Vaughn." So interesting character, but. It looks like he's got all that it takes. Obviously, the lightweight division is stacked at the moment, so it'd be interesting to see how he goes trying to ascend the rankings there.
So the main fight, of course, on this card was Aldo taking on Font, 5 taking on 4 in the rankings. Font's, I think maybe a year for him that he hadn't fought. Yep. This and Aldo's been pretty active, as Aldo does. Did end up being a 5-round war in this, with I think Font starting off a bit earlier in the rounds, and Aldo kind of got back into this fight and did win the later rounds, and the classic kind of Aldo fighting in this. Did get the win by decision. Where do they go from here? I think Aldo's kind of firming himself in the conversation in the bantamweight division at 5.
Yeah, I don't know if this has been updated because it's still got Font ahead of Aldo. Yeah. Surely they switch positions. They were 4 and 5, but that top end of bantamweight is pretty stacked. Like you got Aljamain, who hasn't fought for a little while,
who I think is out injured from the Yarn fight, and I can't remember who's actually stepped in to fight Yarn.
Well, you got Dillashaw or Sandhagen.
Yeah, and Dillashaw just beat Sandhagen recently as well.
You'd imagine.
So, I don't think it is, or maybe Yarn doesn't have a dance partner at the moment. So, Aldo, of course, beating Font puts himself right back in this conversation to have a potential fight in a championship title fight in a bantamweight division, which would be pretty impressive for him.
Well, could you imagine? I think I've got. I'm trying to bring up a little bit of notes here regarding Jose Aldo. He was the champion for 6 years?
So dominant at featherweight for a very long time.
Here we go. I've got it here. November 2010 to July 2015. Let's call that 5.5 years.
Yeah, that's in UFC as well. And because the featherweight division was in WEC, I think it was.
Yeah.
So he was the champion there for like another 3 years before he
Arguably
was
the GOAT.
bought by UFC.
Yeah.
So
and then obviously has dropped off.
had some classic walls against Holloway in featherweight. You know,
McGregor.
got the huge knockout by McGregor, and
Yeah.
then McGregor disappeared, and he hasn't really had a. He's had multiple title fights since then, but been on the wrong end of some of the decisions.
But what a story if Aldo was able to go back
Down a division.
or go
and win a title.
and go back for a title fight.
Yeah.
You know how old he is?
Like early 30s. He's not that old, I didn't think.
Yeah, I think he's 36. I think he's 36 because in my mind I'm like, that dude ancient. Like he held.
Oh, he's been fighting for ages.
Yeah, he's actually not as old as you'd think. Big win over Rob Font there.
So on that, so he jumped up to third ranked.
Okay.
Font's dropped down to fifth.
I got to hit refresh, man. I got to hit refresh.
Hit refresh, yeah.
Where's
I might refresh myself now.
where's Jan ranked currently? Sorry, no, ranked. Does he have a fight currently booked for Jan?
Yes, trying to look that up.
So Jan, obviously the interim champion, whilst Aljamain gets himself ready.
Well, real champ versus paper champ. So
That seems to be the
depends
way.
on how you feel about legal knees.
Depends how you feel about the UFC. You know, Francis Ngannou apparently is not the champion of the heavyweight division at the moment.
Not active enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. The old interim, isn't it? But
Doesn't look like there's anything in terms of the next fight for Jan for
Yeah.
either that interim belt or to unify the belt.
Well, it's either got to be TJ or Aldo now. They're the only two that had fights in that top five with wins, in that division. So
yeah, that's it.
yeah, big one for Aldo there to keep his name in that conversation.
Definitely, yeah. And Font, he actually fought back in May this year up against Cody Garbrandt. He won that one,
who himself has dropped division.
Yes.
Yeah.
So speaking of
Which is a great segue into UFC 269, one of the most stacked cards I've seen in a long, long time. We're going to talk about the prelims, which we don't normally do that much, but there's some fucking awesome fights here on the prelims. One of them, which I don't really know too much about, is Jordan Wright and Bruno Silva. They're both unranked there in the middleweight. But let's talk about our boy, Tai Tuivasa, a.k.a.
Bam Bam.
Shuivasa, a.k.a. Bam Bam,
Yeah.
a.k.a. Western Sydney Eshe. I can say that because he says that about himself. He is going to take on the 11th ranked Augusto Sakai, I'm going to say,
Yep.
out of Brazil. Probably the biggest task Ty's been asked to take on. He's 15-3 is Augusto. He is coming off 2 L's though against Jairzinho Rosenstrike and Alistair Overeem.
Yeah, both in the top 10.
And Ty coming off 3 wins. Most recently against Greg Hardy, Henry Hunsucker, and Stefan Struve before that.
Yeah.
Do you think he'd be worried about this guy? Some of his scalps include Marcin Tybura, Alex Arlovsky, Ivanov. He's beaten some big guys.
So Ty, of course, coming for that 3-win streak after having the loss against Junior Dos Santos, which was the big one, which unfortunately was here in Adelaide and we were there. So
It's also a pretty handy fighter to have.
Junior, like he stalled Ty's momentum definitely in that one. So it is another bit of it's not a Junior Dos Santos step up. So I think this is probably a good fight for Tua, and potentially push his name into that to get ranked essentially into that 15 and especially around that 10. I think this will be a good one. Heavyweights, not going the distance, probably done with inside 1 or 2 rounds, I'd say. And we'll see who's firing off the bigger bullets or bazookas in this one.
What do the bookies say amongst this? Might be kind of like following Australian cricket in that you're getting unders possibly for Ty, considering a lot of Australians will want to throw some money at him. What do the bookies reckon?
That's it. Yeah. So Ty is favourite at $1.85. Sakai is out at $1.95.
Don't like none of that.
No.
I would gamble on heavyweights.
In terms of method,
Maybe first round knockouts, depending.
Yeah.
There you go. Method and round of victory. You've got Ty with the TKO first round at $4.50.
What's the odds of a shoey getting deleted at the end of the fight?
If he wins, yeah,
If he
definitely.
wins, yeah.
Yeah, and off camera if he loses, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Does like to partay, as we did see after that Greg Hardy win. So definitely all of Western Sydney and most of Australia be rooting for Ty Tuivasa in the prelims. And then that leads us into some interesting fights in the
Fights,
prelims.
really.
2 ranked guys and 2 top 10 ranked fights. The first one being at bantamweight between Dominic Cruz and Pedro Munhoz.
Both really big names in the division as well.
Huge. It's a big fight for Cruz in particular. O'Malley wants some of him.
There's been a lot of chat about O'Malley calling him out, and though I think they are in slightly different weight divisions. No, that's Cody. I'll get back to that. So Cruz and O'Malley, of course, in the same division, and O'Malley still unranked, interesting enough, and Cruz there at 10. I don't think Dominic's had a huge layoff. He's had 3 fights in the last. Well, this I think is his 3rd fight in the last 2 years after his long break due to injuries.
He's had 2 fights.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. This will be his 3rd one.
Third? Oh, this will be 3rd. All right,
gotcha. But Cruz has an elite record. He's been on the mic essentially for most of the UFC cards as well, doing that rounds. But Pedro Munhoz is another really great fighter in the bantamweight division. Again, a hard one to tip. I like Cruz, and especially his battles with Uriah Faber back in the day, and his dominant run in the division and being the champion for a very long time. Before actually losing it to Cody, he's coming up on this card.
He's lost 2 fights.
Yeah.
He's ranked 10 and he's lost 2 fights.
Yeah.
So
Long layoffs and long breaks in between has probably been his downfall, and he's getting a bit older. But I really like Cruz, so we'll see how he goes.
Moving into the last prelim, we have Josh Emmett and Dan Ige. This is 7 versus 9 in lightweight. Emmett is 16-2. He's coming off a 3-win streak. Ige, on the other hand, coming off the loss to the Korean Zombie, both very talented, possibly too talented for an undercard or a prelim. Do we like anyone here? I think pretty similar, hard to split.
Yeah, again, hard's very closely match up in this one. I couldn't give it either way. I can't say, I really like the Korean Zombie. Ige losing, of course, to that really doesn't help his chances. So, yeah, not so sure.
We've got Tech Down. We're at the Gabba. There's no Schnicko. No Schnicko. Well, we know off the top of our heads, the first one on the main card is Sean O'Malley.
Yep.
Obviously getting a main card probably out of his social media presence. He's
a name. He's a big name. Everyone knows
name.
about him.
A bloke that probably isn't a name so much is the guy that he's fighting in Aurelian Paiva is a Brazilian. Don't know too much about him. Sugar Sean, he says he's the unranked champ. He says he has no losses. His record would suggest 1. I think he gets the job done here.
Yeah, he's definitely super talented, and like we were saying before, he's been calling out specifically Cruz and Cody in this, and Cody, we'll get to his fight in a minute, has actually gone down a division, so I'm not sure how that's all going to work out. But they have, had that chat, so whether that's O'Malley maybe looking past his opponent, he's really struggled to get a ranked opponent, which is interesting.
So him and Dana must have the hots for Sean O'Malley.
Well, they're definitely trying to build him up and trying to put him in that title picture, and I don't want to say protect him as well, but also people I think are aware of his talent. And
Sure.
Well, I don't want to say they're ducking him, but they're definitely like, well, I've got other matchups I want to focus on, and especially since he's unranked, really doesn't help his case either. So
if he wins this, he has to be ranked possibly as high as 10. What would you think?
Yeah, well, put him in the 15 to start with. If he gets another win,
I think he's better than that. I think he deserves.
He's got at least put him in the ranking. If he gets another win, put him in the ranking.
He's got a ton of momentum behind him. He has to. He's going to keep on getting fights.
He needs that number against his name so he can then force these other blokes ahead of him to say, hey, well, I'm ranked now. Let's have that competition, that fight. So
Massively talented. We'll see a lot more of Sugar. Sean O'Malley does have to get the win here first. So keep that in mind. Going forward, we've got in the bantamweight, we did speak at length about Cody Garbrandt coming down to take. Sorry. He's come down from bantamweight to flyweight. Excuse me.
Yes, I was confirming. Yeah, he's come down. So he's gone from 135 to 125
to take on,
which is quite interesting.
Yeah,
he's taking on France in this one. The
Kaikara.
Who fights out of the same gym as all the other Dan Hooker and Izzy, etc. So
pretty talented gym.
Volk as well, like very talented gym over there. But Cody, it'd be interesting to see him coming down. That he's definitely a lot taller than France is in this one. But I think the talent wise is so different. I think France has been 2-2. I think he's been lost win in his last 4. So
correct.
And he takes on Cody, who's an absolute killer. He's got dynamite in his hands. So I don't know for this one. I don't like his chances. I think Cody's going to be a heavy favourite.
Cody's favourite, but not that heavy. $1.65 for Cody Garbrandt. Kaikara France at $2.18. Hard to split him, but Cody and his experience and coming down, you'd think.
Well, he's a top 5 fighter in the bantamweight division, and he's coming down to where's
that's it.
France ranked
6.
So I guess he's ranked pretty high in the flyweight. So I guess that's fair comparison then of a guy that's about 5th coming down to 5 or 6th. So I don't know.
A little bit's about Cody being able to cut to that weight as well.
Well,
has to. Yeah, always plays a difference.
He'll look very trim, and they've got weigh-ins, of course, will be tomorrow our time. So by the time his body's out, they probably would have weighed in.
And had their presses today. A few words exchanged, nothing too remarkable there. You know what's a weird one, boys? The third from last fight here being in welterweights, Jeff Neal taking on, and forgive me if I fuck this one up, Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Who are they?
Yeah, both very low ranked welterweights. I think we've got there. What are they? 13 and 14 or something.
12. Neil's 12 and Ponzinibbio is 14. I don't know too much about these guys. I imagine you guys are pretty similar.
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago. I'd say this is probably a prelim fight.
But that's an interesting point there that you make, Sean. Yeah. I think the UFC and Dana, in all of his wisdom, is starting to go, maybe we need to get a few big names on these prelims to get people in early, to get them out of their pre-drinks, to get them out of the hotel room and down into the arena and put on some really big fights in the prelim. We saw it at UFC 268 with some of the more fancy guys going off a little bit earlier, and then a little bit of a lesser known guys into the title fights. Well, I think it's very deliberate.
Yeah, and if you just look at boxing or the Canelo box, the pay-per-view, there was no one in. There was 4 fights on that card. There was barely anyone in the stadium for the first 3, and then it was packed for Canelo. So that visual, and if you're trying to, sell sponsorships, advertisement, etc., doing business as Dana likes to do, a full stadium for the entire pay-per-view looks very good, especially if you get guys in there for prelim. So having a couple names in the prelims, guys that are have big names or their rankings are in that 10 range, definitely draws in the crowd. So then you've got your early guys to kick off the pay-per-view, so people are in their seats ready for it. Then you've got some filler in the middle there to get you ready for the climax that is the 2 title fights in this one. So, I can't really say too much. Haven't
really been too active over the last couple of years either. They've only had 1 or 2 fights between them.
Have you got what they're coming off? Any records or anything there?
Yeah, so for Jeff Neal, he is coming off two losses.
1 to Wonder Boy?
Yep, 1 to Wonder Boy, 1 to Neil.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense why there's cards on your pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's a head scratcher.
And that's over the last 2 years, so he's only fought once.
Well, you got O'Malley, the big name. You got a pretty good fight there with Cody coming down to take on France, which is be high ranked for the flyweight division. put a bit of filler in there. That's your drinks break. Go to the bathroom, and then you come back and you've got Nunes going to come out and murder the penne in this one. So, yeah.
We'll get to that in just a second. You did mention about Ponzinibbio. He's on a pretty good run, isn't he?
Before you get to your next note. So, yeah, he's 1-on-1. He has been active this year. So he fought at the start of this year against Li Jingliang. He lost that one.
Qatar Holloway.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. And then he did win and get fight of the night against Miguel Bezia back in June on the Rosenstreicher and Sakai fight.
So you do got to remember the other side of it. They got to build up future stars.
Yeah.
So Neil may potentially here been thrown to the wolves a little bit with a future star coming through. And hey, get him on here. Potentially, he gets knocked out, and you've got another guy with lots of eyes on him being on the pay-per-view, and they're like, "Oh, he's interesting. He's coming into the welterweight."
Like when Masvidal was coming up, sort of out of nowhere, knocking blokes out left, right, and centre.
Yeah, you got to build up future stars because there is turnover in the sport.
Sure.
So
and even before that, over the last couple of years, going back to 2015, he's got like fight of the nights and performance of the nights as well, here or there, scattered around. So, definitely, I guess, got that style of fight.
He's got some wing nuts on him.
Well, he's undefeated in the ears category. So
we may have to post this to our socials. Look, I may not say it to him face to face. This is coming from a guy that really had to grow into his own ears coming up as a youngster.
I think we all did.
But wing nuts and with a bit of cauliflower. He looks.
They're out there.
Looks kind of scary. Argentinian.
He gets a few channels.
Don't see too many Argentinians in the UFC, so that'll be an interesting one, I suppose, between two not as well known names on this main card.
Yeah.
Speaking of well known names, Amanda Nunes, she's going to take on Juliana Pena. I think we all kind of see eye to eye here. I'm doing.
Let's hope our insurance and health policies up to date.
Doing a pray for Pena, Amanda Nunes. I think she's the undisputed female GOAT. It does seem like a lamb going to the wolves. Pena is 2-2 in her last 4. She's third ranked in this division. Nunes obviously just murders anyone that she goes up against. The counter argument, I suppose, and I was talking to you guys about it pre-show, was when Holly Holm fought Ronda Rousey. No one expected her to kick her in the face and knock her out and knock off, at the time, the best female fighter of all time. Sean, you quickly reminded me that Holly Holm was on a 9-win streak at that time.
She had a big boxing background, kickboxing background, and like a 9-fight win streak, made it 10, knocking out Ronda. So a little bit of a different situation than a Bird coming in at 2-2, and not really in the same conversation as what Nunes is, but Nunes has murdered everyone else in this division.
She's a GOAT. Cyborg doesn't compare. Rousey doesn't compare anymore.
Just felt Valentino. She's going to go to the end of time.
That'd
Just
be nice,
that
but that's hard. But that's really hard on Shevchenko to try and come up and fight Nunes at that weight. But
they've done it before.
Yeah.
That's all. That's it.
Look, that's the only fight moving forward that makes sense. Yeah. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
They should do that at least once a year. Let's put it that way.
You never know. Pena could catch her. The odds on this one are obviously far in the GOAT's favour in Amanda Nunes. She is $1.10. Juliana Pena at $6. You'd imagine this to go one way, wouldn't you, boys? Monks, anything to add?
No, nothing really to add to that. Pretty much said it all.
How do you make a goat sound? That sound like sheep, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Yeah, close enough.
Anyways, I'm sorry, Amanda. Don't bash me up. Into the co-main event.
We've talked about how killer this division is.
Yeah, two title fights in this UFC 269. Charles Oliveira takes on Dustin Poirier. A long awaited matchup here. Poirier has been doing everything in his power to get this fight. He's on a 9-win streak. He hasn't lost in 4 years. And in that time, there's been one fight. One that's gone the distance. That was the Tony Ferguson. So he's finished 8 guys in that 9-win streak. That is Oliveira.
You said Poirier.
Yeah,
You
confused
the shit out of me. I was just like, I don't think that's right.
No, I just realised. I did just realise. Dustin, on the other hand, he's 8 of his last 9. His only loss was to Khabib's,
for the
which
title. Yeah.
everyone in this division essentially has lost to.
Yep.
Pretty handy list of scalps there. Conor McGregor, Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis. This is a scintillating matchup. Poirier has been doing everything right, but Oliveira is the champ for a reason.
Yep.
Does this get taken away from him on Saturday night, do you think?
Yeah, well, I've been backing Poirier for a long time, as you're probably well aware, lads.
Yep.
I still think he's, how would you say it? Like, he's the veteran presence in the division, essentially. He's done it there. He's fought all the big names. He's beaten a lot of them as well. Khabib was Khabib and just took it to him. But he's the complete package, really. And Oliveira, had that really bad first round against Michael Chandon, as a lot of people do, with him throwing bombs at you. But got himself back into that fight and really showed some heart to win it. But I think Poirier might be just a step ahead of him currently in their careers. I really would like to see Oliveira kind of take that step, and this be an excellent, absolute war when the two of them kind of in their prime kind of compete in this. But for mine, I've got Dustin slightly ahead. And I think it's a long time coming that he'll finally be crowned as the champion of the lightweight division.
The bookies tend to agree with you. It's unusual to see the challenger at $1.56 going up against the champion Oliveira at $2.33. If you're a betting man, I don't know about those odds, but definitely as a fight fan, you can appreciate the build up going into this lightweight championship. Monks, you got anything to add? Do you lean one way? I tend to agree with you, Sean, but I'm not sold. I don't want to pick one here. I'm sitting on the fence. I'm sitting on the fence.
Fight.
It's a hard one. I think those odds sort of reflect the names that Dustin has fought recently, but not necessarily the form of those fighters. Like, Conor is a great fighter, but arguably you wouldn't say that he was all that great against Dustin. Like,
No.
Dustin,
took it to him.
The other point is Dustin dominated him twice. So
And also Conor he went into that fight with a broken leg, and it kind of finished on a bit of a technicality. So who knows what happens there?
That's it.
he
And
won
like-
the first one convincingly. So
Yes.
Well, yeah. And Dan Hooker, I'll back Dan Hooker every day of the week, but still, he's just not at that level yet. So,
but he also
It's just
dominated
so
the shit out
hard.
of Dan Hooker. So
yeah, true. It's just
he showed, like, my point of being that veteran presence is like, I am a step above you.
no,
And
I
it's
get
like,
that.
hey, you're a young kid. You still got shit to learn.
But then how does he go against Oliveira, who is
He is a
dominant as
champion,
well,
but I
so
think
that's just why
missing a bit.
it's just really hard for me to be able to pick one way or the other. It's just, yes, Dustin has dominated in his fights, but it's against a fading Conor and Dan Hooker, who's still got a lot to.
Oh well, the
Learn
lightweight division's
work through
excellent though. So
Yeah.
whoever wins this has probably got Gagey next. So and that's still going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
He's looking red hot, isn't he? Absolute
That's
chin
it.
on him. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I mentioned the odds there. Excellent fight card. I've got to play
Oh, definitely.
cricket on Sunday, but there definitely will.
You're going to
be-
miss the Ashes and UFC.
Well, the Ashes isn't going to day 5. I hope. But yeah, the radio will be on loud. That is for sure. Maybe he might have to forfeit cricket. No, fuck that. I love it. The other news in the fighting world is that Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury is off. Yep. Tyrone Woodley steps in.
When was that? That was coming up, wasn't it? It was a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, I think it's only 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks away. Tommy got on socials and said he's had a chest infection.
Sounds like the COVID.
I imagine he would have been tested for that. He said he was coughing up all kinds of phlegm.
Yeah.
Jake, on the other hand, getting on his socials as he does, saying Tommy's got a case of vaginitis. Slightly sexist there, I think, Jake. But Jake did give props to Tyrone Woodley, saying he had balls to take this fight on short notice, and even offered a $500,000 payout if Tyrone can knock Jake out. It's a bit of it's a bit of a shame, I should say, because I thought Tommy Fury had a really good chance of touching up Jake Paul.
Up-and-coming boxer, definitely.
Yeah. Brother of the baddest motherfucker on the planet. Again, this is going to be a lot of media attention and money and noise, perhaps more so than a boxing spectacle.
Yeah.
Are you guys looking forward to it?
And this goes back to the point I was saying way earlier about, you learn a lot in a loss. And I think Woodley would have learned a lot in that of Jake didn't really challenge me too much with his power. I got through that and I wasn't active enough. So whether he just comes out and is like, fuck it, I'll get an extra 500K and knock him out. Let's throw caution in the wind and actually go out there and throw a lot more volume than he did in the first fight. That's what I want to see. In which case, maybe we'll see Jake in a bit more trouble and then see how that kind of goes. So I think Tyron was too careful in the first one. So that's my thoughts. I'd like to see him come out, be more active, more volume, and potentially that gets him the win. But either way, we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Tyron Woodley again. So
seems like not long. Do we remember when was it August?
It was before lockdown for us.
So they first fought
July?
a second ago. 29th of August, and they are actually fighting next weekend, 18th of December.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, roughly around the 18th.
Very short turnaround there.
Yeah, also on that card, Frank Gore up against Deron Williams.
Yes, I did see that.
Yes, ex-NFL player there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Frank Gore's been doing.
Yeah, he's getting into boxing, bro.
That motherfucker don't age.
No, not at all.
He don't age.
Right.
F1.
Yes, F1. Peppy, do you need to take a pee break?
I just went, actually.
I'm kidding.
Got any beers back out there? Well, I think we're all out.
I think we're out.
Damn it.
I got nothing else alcoholic, unfortunately. But let's get drunk on the F1. We've been talking about
a long time for me.
We're talking about it in a little bit in the intro. We need to cover last week's race, which was in Saudi, the Saudi GP. Ended up being not a shit show, but it was crazy to say the least. It was red flag twice. So Schumacher had the first crash into the Crypto.com sign, getting them lots of publicity.
like they needed it.
Yeah. So Mercedes pit under the safety car, but Max stayed out. Then the race was red flag, so Max took the lead. On the restart, Max cuts the first corner to get the lead from Hamilton, but then Leclerc and Perez have their big crash in the background, which took out 3 drivers, which led to another red flag. So we had 3 restarts in this race. Following that following restart, I think Max took Hamilton in that corner, and then Ocon. So at the restart, Ocon.
Yeah.
No, so leading into that, from that cutoff of the last corner, they agreed, which was interesting. They had the comms back and forth with the teams. They agreed with the FIA to give the position back. So Ocon would start first, Hamilton was second, and Max was third.
Yeah, it was real. From what I heard, it was real weird. It was sort of like the FIA, Michael Massey was like, all right, well, we can give you this position or we can do this sort of stuff. It
Yeah,
wasn't
we'll
like,
give you a penalty. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you to do this. You're not going to follow my instructions. Like, we can work this out in some sort of way.
We'll negotiate
this. It just
this.
sounded really weird.
Yeah, but I guess it was fair racing, maybe. Either way, it restarted with Max in third, but he did do a quick dive in the inside to take the lead from the first corner from the other two.
Yeah, good start.
Yeah, and puts Hamilton back behind Ocon. But it didn't take very long. A couple laps later, Hamilton had Ocon, and then we're back to them being 1 and 2. And this is only the first 20 laps of this race already. There was a bunch of virtual safety cars as well to clean up debris because of all these crashes and all the shit happening. So by lap 37, Lewis almost gets the lead. He forces Max wide, and Max kind of slides out, which kicks Lewis through the corner. They both couldn't make that corner. From that, Red Bull tells Max to give the position, and this is kind of where the madness happens. Red Bull tells Max to give the position back to Lewis. Not sure if Mercedes communicated that properly to Lewis.
Well, again, it was all the FIA and the stewards, like from what we could hear on the radios, was somehow Red Bull got the message first to let Lewis through.
Yep.
And then Mercedes never got or didn't get their call in time.
Yeah, I think Michael Massa has said, I can only push buttons so fast.
Yeah, that's it. So
the race director, that is.
I mean, I don't know how it works from week to week, but you'd think you'd tell the team that's going to be able to overtake, you'd tell them first so they have the opportunity to, or they can watch out for the car in front of them slowing
He's going to move across way, be aware,
Yeah, but it just seems like I don't know how it happened, but they got all the communications mixed up.
Well, it was also odd on the racetrack because Max, in my opinion, gave him plenty of room. He stayed outside and then kind of worked his way in.
He did.
But Lewis also took forever to potentially make his mind up. And in the end, what happened is Max slows right down, and then Lewis ends up hitting him in the back because he hasn't gone around him. Whether Lewis thought maybe there was another virtual safety car and he got confused with that and then we had to slow down. But generally, the guy in front of you goes slower, you take him over. So I don't know whether there was some other chat there because Max also was trying to do it very strategically where he would then get the DRS, take him back over straight away and then maintain the lead.
That's it. So again, playing into that as well, like Lewis would want to make sure that he stays behind Verstappen so that he keeps the DRS.
Yeah, but if they hadn't communicated quickly enough, how did he know about it? So it's odd to me that Lewis didn't take him over.
That's why he would have stayed behind and not overtake him.
Yeah, but only if he knew the position was being given to him. But if he didn't know that, which is what they said they did, then why didn't he just take him over? Like, you see,
it's strange.
For all intents and purposes, Max's car could have been broken. Because Lewis doesn't know, so why doesn't Lewis go around him? Like it doesn't make any sense to me in my mind. So, my thinking is maybe Lewis got confused with virtual safety car or not. Didn't know and was like, "Why is Max slowing down? Do I need to slow down as well?" And they just tripped over each other in the height of battle. Very lucky, Lewis only had minor damage to his front wing, which potentially made his car faster anyway. And Max, lucky, did not get any punches on the back of his tires, but both, by all accounts, had horizontal lines in them. So following on from that, lap 43, Max did actually give the position back, but then he picked that spot back up straight away using that DRS tactic that we mentioned before. But in the end, it didn't last very long. Lewis did get him at the end of that lap 43, and Max really couldn't attack back with his tyres being damaged from that initial crash and had to make it to the end of the race. So Lewis did win. Of the 50-lap race. He did get the fastest lap as well, which then tied the championship at 369.5 points for the two of them.
Which is wild, going into the last race for them to be on the exact same points. It's nuts.
So the other news, Bottas did a job as well, finishing third. He did get a very late overtake of Ocon, finishing, 0.1 of a second ahead of him.
It was the last corner.
Yeah, last was on the straight.
Absolutely pipped him.
He had some funny socials about Fast and Furious and the Monica joke going around, so it was good chat. Our boy,
good movies, the first two of those.
A bit more realistic. Ricardo finished fifth for our lads.
Submarines chasing cars underneath the ice, is it realistic?
Yes. And going at roughly the same speeds across the same sort of distance. Or runways that never ends. Anyway.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Hey, they're entertaining.
The first two were.
So,
shout out to Eva Mendes.
Yeah. So that leads us into the Abu Dhabi race, which is on in 2 days. P1 and P2, first 2 practice sessions completed, or P2 is probably underway currently as we talk.
P2 starts in 17 minutes.
There you go. So, and of course, qualifying, P3 and qualifying tomorrow.
I think by all accounts, Verstappen was putting up fastest times in P1. Not that it means too much.
Yeah, I saw some of the numbers. I think Hamilton was like 2/10 behind. Like they're still pretty close. I think the Construction Championship potentially still up for grabs. Mercedes got a 30-point lead though, so they'd need significant injuries to their cars for Red Bull to steal that back.
Yeah, you'd probably almost want neither cars to score points.
And both DNFs and 1-2 for Red Bull.
Yeah.
So looking likely Mercedes will win the Construction Championship, which is probably fair. They've had the best car all year, you'd say.
The last couple of years.
Definitely. So I guess the question is, who do you think is going to win this championship with those two? They're tied on points. Do you have a favourite going into this race?
Well, as me, as the unqualified dribbler in terms of F1, what were you boys talking about pre-show back in the 90s? Didn't Senna take out Prost to win one? Could that possibly be on the card?
Well, I think that's kind of the conversation for the scenarios, and Monks, you might need to find some rules for us of potential how the winner,
like a count back kind of system.
Yeah, so whoever finishes ahead of the other, doesn't matter where they are, will win.
Of course.
If they finish outside the top 10, both of them won't score points.
And what does it go back to there?
Yeah, or if they both don't finish, they of course don't score points. So I think from memory it goes back to GP's 1, where Max is 1 ahead currently, correct. 9 and 8.
Yes. I was looking at that. I think you're right. 9 and 8.
Yeah, that's it. So Max would win on that account, and then as Pep's kind of alluded to, potentially Max crashes into Lewis on the first corner, takes them both out. He still wins based on that technicality. I think that's the understanding of the rules.
Which literally happened in 1990 for our less versed F1 listeners. As per myself, I didn't know that. But Ayrton Senna took out Alain Prost.
A lot of gamesmanship, not a lot of sportsmanship.
No, very little. I thought there might have been some hands thrown. Prost took it very gentlemanly. I don't think that's a word, but anyways.
So of course there's been a bit of chat of that.
In that case, I think even before the race had started, everyone knew what was going to happen.
Well, there's been some chat about that this week, but
I'd love to see it as a very casual F1 fan to see that happen in the first corner and Max just take out. Max just go. Yeah, you know what, Lewis? You've had yours, mate. You've had yours. Let me have one. Bang, take him out. Be good viewing, I reckon.
There's been the jokes floating around that Mick Schumacher would take out Lewis some point in the race so that his father's record would stay in place of most F1 wins. So Lewis wouldn't take that. But
avenge the goat.
Yeah, but what we really want to see is
more realistically.
Yeah, you want to see a full race, them being competitive, fighting every corner, wheel to wheel. That's what everyone wants to see. They have tripped over themselves a bit.
Twice this year, haven't they?
Yeah. I'd say Max has probably been the better driver this year, but Lewis has the better car. I think that's kind of where we're at this point in the season.
I was actually having a look at when it was up before. They've changed the layout of the circuit a little bit. There's a lot more long corners as opposed to like those short corners. So that actually probably leads into Mercedes' hands a little bit. They've definitely got the faster car on the straights. So long winding corners is probably plays.
Red Bull then also have the better downforce traditionally. So
but that'd be better for the slower, the more tighter corners, I guess.
Anyway, Max has been really fast. Like that's the Saudi GP. That race course was very much high pace course. Lewis did end up winning that effectively with a 5-second lead, I think, over Max. But hey, they're going to be close throughout. I'd say they're probably going to qualify 1-2. It'll be a pretty interesting race, which I think is early morning for us on Monday.
How good that it all comes down to this. All of the speculation around the season. Is it a 2-horse race? Yes, it is. That was made pretty clear pretty early on. But the fact for it to go right down to the wire with both of them even points.
Exactly.
It brings in the casual viewer like myself to have a little bit of intrigue around this race going, oh, wow, and it all comes down to this.
Well, I think so. I think definitely, well, they'll be 1 and 2. We've got to figure out the order. I'm pretty sure Bottas is locked into third.
Yeah, he will get third.
And I think Perez is probably potentially fighting maybe Lando there for fourth based on the standings. So there could be some changes there.
Leclerc's brought himself up, but there's a clear gap between...
So Bottas will finish third.
Yeah, the
Perez will finish fourth.
Top four are set.
Yep.
Leclerc and Norris have a fight out for fifth place there.
Yeah, and then I think in the constructors, Mercedes, like we think, is probably sewn that up. Red Bull will be second, Ferrari will be third, and McLaren will be fourth.
Very good off the top of your head there. That is the order.
Yeah, they've kind of cemented their spots with their differences there. So, yeah, all to play for the Drivers' Championship for a potential winner in the last race of the season. We love to see it go all the way to the end in a long season. I think 22 races in total.
Yes, I believe so, 22.
So,
and a fair few tracks getting their first run this year. So interesting to see there. Abu Dhabi obviously holding the ultimate event this weekend.
Yeah.
And I guess our final note and a little finish up with more motorsports. We mentioned Bathurst last week. It was a pretty good event over the weekend, the 6-hour-long race. Went actually really down to the wire with everyone basically on the lead lap to finish off the race. Shane Van Gisberg and his tandem with Garth Tander. There you go. Mm-hmm. Had a battle at the end there with Chaz Mostert and...
Lee Holdsworth.
Holdsworth. I was going to say Longsworth. I was like, it's not that. No, it starts with L somewhere. And it's so Lee Holdsworth, who they both had been bridesmaids and also had a bit of Chaz had a bit of a curse on him at the mountain.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Being favourite in the lead and then having car failures. But it was SVG that had the unfortunate go chasing Chaz down with a tyre blowout with a couple laps to go.
Poor fella, they raced for 6 and a bit hours, and Van Gisberg blows a tyre, trying to chase him down. Kind of pretty much took him out.
Big time.
Of any contention, and Chaz Mostert, the favourite going into it.
Yeah, he's his first win on the mountain.
His first win on the mountain.
Yeah, and Waters, they finished second for the second year in a row as well. They're bridesmaids, of course.
Yep. And Kostecki and Russell finishing in third. It was a bit of a send-off, wasn't it? Scott Morrison there to send away Craig Lowndes?
Craig had Whincup. Whincup retired, actually made it in the Hall of Fame for the supercars as well. It was a bit of an event around the Gen 3 cars that we were talking about with the Camaro and the Mustang, the new ones, and they had a big event for them. But I don't believe they actually come into effect next season. It's the following year, 2023, that they're going to actually run those cars. Right. So I think they've built the two prototypes, and then they're going to give them all to the teams to then build their cars for the following year. So probably another year of holding them forward next year by all accounts. But the Camaro looks tasty. The Mustang, they look very quick. It'll be interesting to see what that turns into supercars in 2023.
And that'll wrap us up on the Esky. Thanks for listening to any viewers that have made it through 3.5 hours of this dribble.
Yes.
As per mentioned at the start of the show, if you'd like this content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Check us out on Instagram. We will be getting a Facebook going up over the Christmas holidays. We have the last 2 days of an interesting Ashes test coming up. The final F1 race, UFC 269, plenty going on.
NFL, NBA, as always, Champions League.
And Sam Kerr, hopefully to drop another fake Javo motherfucker. Yes. That would be great. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Gotcha.